Chapter 969. When the patriarch said that he would bestow a heavenly weapon, Xiao Ziji had fantasized countless times in a short period of time, fantasizing that it would be as powerful as second senior brother's heavenly slaughter lightning mark. However, after seeing that it was a wok, he stood there like a wooden chicken and did not come back to his senses for a long time. This is my personal heavenly weapon. Li Fei, Tian Qi, and the others' mouths twitched violently. A wok could also be considered a weapon. Alright, even if this thing was a weapon, shouldn't it be given to junior sister Lu? After all, when they were not fighting, they could still use it to cook for everyone. Actually, the cloud boat hero from the Heavenly Weapon Pavilion was not bad, especially since it was dark gold in color and gave off a noble feeling. However, because the shape was too unique, it was difficult for martial artists to accept it. Just think about it. Carrying a wok during a fight was definitely an eyesore. I've sinned. Jun Changshao said seriously, this item is called the Cloud Boat Hero. Although the shape is strange, it is also a rare defensive heavenly weapon. It is very suitable for you to use. Defensive heavenly weapon? Xiao Ziji, who was a little depressed, suddenly became spirited. Ever since he became a disciple of the sect of all times, he was completely infatuated with body tempering and always pursued the ultimate defense. If this item could make his defense stronger, it did not matter whether it was shaped or not. Xiao Ziji hugged the Cloud Boat Hero and said, "Thank you, Patriarch, for bestowing this wok." Yi Xingqian was speechless in his heart and said, "Such a shameful weapon, does he have the nerve to take it out during a fight?" Anyo was a man with dignity. Even if this wok was a heavenly weapon, he would not use it because it would be too shameful. Xiao Ziji did not have this burden. After all, he was once a trash and was also a beggar for a few years. He did not care about his so-called identity. If the weapon could help him, he would use it without hesitation. I've sinned. Jun Changshao said, there are grooves on the wok that can be used to activate a killing move. If the battlefield spirit appears tomorrow, you can use it to test it. Yes. Xiao Ziji received the order. The next day, the ghosts of the battlefield arrived as expected. Li Qingyang and the others had a tacit understanding not to make a move. They watched as Xiao Ziji carried the wok and walked over alone. What's the killing move? Jun Changshao sat outside the hall with an expectant look on his face. The sure kill skill of the Heavenly Slaughter Lightning Mark could condense a lightning tribulation, forcing the Purple King to use 30% of his strength to defend. Although the design of this wok was strange, it was still bought with 10,000 contribution points, so its power must be extraordinary. Ta! Xiao Ziji stopped. Cloud Boat Hero took it out from behind and placed it in front of him. Swish! Swish! The eyes of the hundreds of ghosts on the battlefield flickered with dim light. Immediately, they regained the ability to think and move, and they exuded a majestic aura. The current situation was that Xiao Ziji was the only one facing the creatures that could be created by the upper realm in an area where a battle could break out at any time. Crack! Caw caw caw! The ghosts of the battlefield raised their hands one by one, and pitch-black spears appeared one after another. Then, they quickly rushed over. Xiao Ziji raised his head and pressed his thumb on the groove. A special memory was integrated into his consciousness. Li Qingyang activated the sure kill skill of the Heavenly Slaughter Lightning Mark and received a similar memory inheritance, as well as its name and usage method. The incantation was continuously arranged in his consciousness. Xiao Ziji was suddenly enlightened. Then, he opened his arms and hugged Cloud Boat Hero in his arms. He shouted, "Hero, incarnation!" Swish! A dark golden light flickered and instantly enveloped him. This light was very powerful. It was so dazzling that Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others almost could not open their eyes. At the same time, there was a heavy aura roaring wildly. After a while, the dark golden light gradually weakened. Xiao Ziji was still standing in the same place. The huge wok that he was holding disappeared into thin air. Wait! Junior brother's appearance changed. Li Qingyang and Yi Xingqian both widened their eyes. Although Xiao Ziji's back was facing them at the moment, after releasing his spiritual thoughts, they found that the former's exposed skin was dark golden. There was also a halo flashing around his body. The black hair that was originally tied together was now dark golden and scattered freely. Damn! Jun Changshao said in surprise, did he transform? I feel like my whole body has become one with the earth. Xiao Ziji clenched his fists and then slowly raised his head. His pupils had also turned dark golden, and the word hero was imprinted between his eyebrows. Not Spider-Man, not Iron Man, and not Pig-Man. Jun Changshao said solemnly, at this moment, he is the scapegoat. Ta! Suddenly, Xiao Ziji stomped on the ground and instantly turned into a dark golden cannonball and rushed over. Swish! 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 At the same time, dozens of ghosts of the battlefield had already raised their spears. The spearheads immediately shot out light beams. Ding! 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 Xiao Ziji did not try to decipher them at all. He endured the bombardment of light beams and rushed forward rapidly. Li Qingyang and the others were shocked. Junior brother's body is like steel. He completely ignored the bombardment of light beams and even bounced them all away. The system said, after your disciple's body turned dark golden, his defense is even stronger than wearing Earth-grade defensive equipment. That's right. Gosheng said with a smile, a divine weapon bought with 10,000 contribution points, even if it's just a pot, must be extraordinary. Ta! Braving dozens of beams of light, Xiao Zuiji rushed to the front of the battlefield specter. His right hand formed into a fist, and with a dark golden light, he punched directly at the battlefield specter. With a bang, the extremely sturdy helmet suddenly shattered. Plop! The headless armor collapsed on the ground. One-hit kill. Moreover, it was a Huang who was infinitely close to the peak of the Xian level. Without the support of a weapon, Wu Huang, who was only at the second stage, killed on the spot with just his fist. This killing move was absolutely terrifying when performed. Swish! Swish! Behind him, dozens of battlefield ghosts rushed forward. Their spearheads were infused with energy and fiercely stabbed Xiao Ziji's back. Then, a ding-ding-ding sound was heard. However, they saw that the latter was still standing at the same spot without moving an inch. Jun Changshao said, invulnerable. Scram! With dozens of spears on his back, Xiao Ziji angrily clenched his fist. A thick golden airwave erupted and directly sent more than 20 battlefield ghosts flying. Shio shio shio. At this moment, a few more spears stabbed at him from the side. Xiao Ziji stepped to avoid them. He used his armpits to clamp down on all the incoming weapons. He suddenly turned around and instantly flung the battlefield ghosts away. Kacha! Kacha! Power exploded between his arms, and the spears he clamped down on all broke. Awesome! Li Fei and Tian Qi were dumbfounded. Although the dozens of battlefield ghosts attacking their junior brother were generally at the middle-level yellow level, they would definitely not be able to fight against so many alone. The Purple King, who was standing on the main peak watching the battle, nodded and said, this guy's physical strength is not bad. Bang! 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 In the battle area, Xiao Ziji's fists were like invulnerable cannonballs. As long as they hit the battlefield ghosts' helmets, they would definitely shatter on the spot. After a while, there were as many as 20 sets of armor scattered on the ground. Of course, the battlefield ghosts would definitely not let Xiao Ziji be so unscrupulous. A few Xian-level ghosts rushed over. Although they gathered energy on their spearheads and blasted at him, they only forced him to take a few steps back. That's amazing! Jun Changshao said. Forcefully resisting the attacks of a few Xian-level masters who were comparable to half-step wuxing meant that after this disciple turned into a scapegoat, his physical defense had a qualitative change. Even if he could not defeat them, he could at least protect himself. The golden junior brother Yi is too powerful. All the disciples were shocked. At the same time, they realized that even if the patriarch gave him a scapegoat, it was still very powerful. Work hard, work hard. Strive to bring more contributions to the sect and obtain their own divine weapons. Senior brother. At this moment, Xiao Ziji broke down and said, "You guys go, I can't hold on anymore." Chapter 970. Although the dark gold Xiao Ziji's strength and physical defense had increased a lot, there were too many battlefield wraiths after all. It would be difficult to deal with them alone, so he could only call for help. Go! Whoosh! 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 With Li Qingyang as the leader, the disciples rushed forward. The Purple King, Ding Xingwang, and other higher-ups also flew out from the main peak. A new round of battle began. Because it had been repeated many times, after a short battle, the battlefield wraiths were declared to have been wiped out. It was the same number of people and strength every time. From the first defeat, it meant that they could not do anything to the sect of all times, let alone break through the falling star continent's stronghold. They could only provide them with EXP. The battle ended. Xiao Ziji returned to the stronghold. The energy in his body dissipated, and the dark gold color on his body faded away. The cloud boat hero invisibility gradually gathered in front of him. From the dim color, it was obvious that the ultimate skill had entered cooldown. How do you feel? Xiao Ziji's eyes were burning. Very strong. With the ultimate skill, he received explosive strength and strong defense. His entire person was sublimated. Li Fei, Tian Qi, and the others were envious. They hurried to the construction site, only to find that their junior brothers Yi Xingqian and Yi Wudi were already moving bricks. Their mouths twitched. They're even more diligent than us. Middle state, altar. After the sect of all times wiped out the battlefield wraiths again, the time limit had been shortened to 60 minutes. At this rate, the upper realm would continue to send EXP. In a few days, the portal to the dimensional battlefield would appear in the falling star continent. The time limit has been shortened again. After receiving the news from the altar, the first batch of powerhouses had not only made arrangements for their funerals, but some had also built cenotaphs in advance. As the time to enter the battlefield approached, a bleak and solemn atmosphere gathered in the falling star continent. It was as if the wind is blowing, the water is cold, and the heroes will never return. Father, you've been coming here a little frequently recently. I just wanted to see you. In the cafeteria, Mu Changhong looked at his daughter while eating fried rice. He then secretly wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. Father, I've just finished my training outside, so I'll go and meditate first. Mu Honglian didn't notice her father's abnormality. Instead, she went to the spirit gathering array to digest the martial arts experience she had just obtained. City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao sat down with a jug of wine in his hand. He poured some wine for him and said, "The planar battlefield isn't hell. There's no need to be so pessimistic." AI. Mu Changhong raised his bowl and drained it. He sighed and said, "According to the news from the altar, there are only 60 days left until we enter the battlefield." 60 days? Jun Changshao asked in surprise, "Isn't there still 2 years?" At first, there were still 2 years. I don't know who the falling star continent offended in the upper realm, but now, it has been reduced to 2 months, Mu Changhong said with a bitter face. Jun Changshao asked, "When was it reduced?" Mu Changhong told him all the information he had received from the altar. After receiving the news, Jun Changshao fell into silence. Judging from the reduction in time, it should have been when the sect disciples were fighting the battlefield ghosts. Could it be that the two were related? Could it be that the area is becoming more and more urbanized, which caused the time to enter the planar battlefield to be reduced? Jun Changshao had this guess because of the upper realm's rules. After entering the planar battlefield, one had to expand their territory to the size of a city before they could leave freely. Currently, the falling star continent's stronghold was very close to the city. The upper realm didn't want them to meet the requirements before entering, so they deliberately reduced the time. Don't worry, City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao raised his bowl and smiled. Maybe a miracle will happen. I hope so. Mu Changhong freeloaded a lot of food and drank a lot of wine in the sect of all times. Then, he left drunk. Jun Changshao forced the alcohol out of his body and sat in the main hall. He held his left cheek and said, "The time to enter the planar battlefield has been reduced. I have to quickly set a price." The Falling Star Continent's martial artists entered the planar battlefield with the mentality that they would die, but in fact, they had already cleared the planar battlefield. So, this was a good opportunity to make money. Speaking of which, it was strange. After Xiao Ziji activated his ultimate skill yesterday, no battlefield specters appeared for a few days. Scared? Jun Changshao shook his head and said. Without the battlefield specters, Li Qingyang and the others put their minds on construction after cultivating. The mountains were changing every day. Li Tiantian, Mu Honglian, and the others had enough combat experience, so they put their minds on comprehension. They gradually touched the wall leading to Wu Huang. As long as they pushed it down, they could easily advance. Wow! In the cafeteria, Lu Wancher held the Rui Divine Dream and said happily, "Patriarch, the spatula is so beautiful." Jun Changshao said, "Girl, this isn't a spatula. It's a divine weapon." Pht! Lu Wancher was amused. She said, "Patriarch, spatulas are used to cook. How can it be a divine weapon? You don't believe me?" Jun Changshao shrugged. "You can try." "Okay." Lu Wancher said, "Let me try." "Senior brother Chu, how's your comprehension going?" Huo Ling said with a smile. Chu Shunan said proudly, "I have a feeling that I can break through to Wu Huang in less than half a month." "I have the same feeling," Huo Ling said with a smile. The two of them had entered the planar battlefield many times. Their combat experience and comprehension were accumulated very quickly. Their talents were also good. Breaking through to the emperor level was a matter of course. "Let's go to the cafeteria to eat." Ga. Huo Ling and Chu Shunan were just about to stand up when they froze in place. Because in the cafeteria kitchen, there was a sudden flash of golden light. It was so bright that they almost couldn't open their eyes. What's going on? Why is there such a strong golden light? The disciples who were going to eat noticed it. After the golden light dissipated, they all gathered in the kitchen. They saw Lu Wancher standing in front of the stove with her eyes wide open. There was fried rice in the big pot. But every grain of rice was covered in golden light. This, Lu Wancher rubbed her eyes and said in shock, "What's going on?" The ingredients and rice were very normal. The cooking method was also the same as before. Why was it that when it was fried, it was shining as if it had turned into gold? Could it be? Lu Wancher looked at the Rui Divine Dream on the chopping board and said, "Is it because it's fried?" God! Senior Sister Lu's fried rice is even better than before. My soul feels like it's flying to the sky. Woo woo! How can there be such fragrant fried rice in this world? In the cafeteria, the disciples were crazily praising the golden fried rice while eating. After Zhen Dejuan finished eating, he raised the bowl and licked it. Then, he said loudly, "Big Black, give me another bowl." Patriarch. Lu Wancher, who was at the kitchen door, hugged the Rui Divine Dream and said happily, "This spatula is so powerful." Jun Changshao said, "A martial artist's sword is a weapon. A chef's spoon is also a weapon. So, it's not wrong for me to say that it's a divine weapon." "Yes, yes." Lu Wancher nodded heavily. Huff, huff, huff. At this moment, a powerful aura of advancement surged from outside. "Honglian is about to break through," Goxing said with a smile. Huff, huff. Suddenly, an extremely sharp sword aura surged from the mountain peak where the inner sect male disciples lived. Jun Patriarch said in shock, "Zhou Hong is also about to break through to Sword Emperor." The planar battlefield had appeared for so long, but Zhou Hong had never shown it. It wasn't that he had forgotten about him, but that the rapid increase rune couldn't increase Sword Dao. After this guy breaks through, his strength will definitely be above mine, Yi Xingqian said to himself. He might have broken through to Wu Huang early, but he also knew that once Zhou Hong broke through to Sword Emperor, it would be very difficult for him to defeat him without relying on external factors. Huff, huff. The aura of advancement whistled and dissipated after a while. Mu Honglian successfully stepped into Wu Huang realm, and Zhou Hong stepped into Sword Emperor realm. Hall Master Li Jun Changshao said, "The sect will hold a party tonight to celebrate the birth of a Sword Emperor." Yes. Li Luoqiu nodded. Yi Xingqian, who was standing far away, had an interesting expression. He said firmly in his heart, "I can't drink. I definitely can't drink." Chapter 971. The next day. Yi Xingqian opened his eyes at the first glimmer of dawn. He clutched his aching head and said, "Damn it." Jun Changshao held a banquet to celebrate Zhou Hong's breakthrough to Wu Huang the day before. Alcohol was a must for such an occasion. Night Emperor emphasized that he did not drink, but after being provoked by Li Fei and Tian Qi, he began to drink. He had already forgotten how much alcohol he drank. Quack quack, suddenly, a sound came from behind. Yi Xingqian's expression changed. He hurriedly turned around and saw a few ducks leaning in the corner. Why would there be? The Knight Arch tried his best to turn his head, and the expression on his face collapsed. Creak. Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Ah! Lu Wancher's voice rang out, "Junior brother Yi, why are you sitting in the duck pen?" Patriarch. In the main hall of the Falling Star Continent stronghold, Li Qingyang said, "According to the current construction speed, it will be completed in about a month." Jun Changshao took a sip of tea and said, "Our sect of all times will occupy the main peak. The other 6 mountains will be numbered 1 to 6. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. The Patriarch named the mountains according to their numbers. How casual. Oh, right. Jun Changshao said, "We'll also build casually below. When the martial artists of the various sects come in, let them stay there." He was the one who fought for the Falling Star Continent stronghold. The terrain and buildings were also planned by him. He would definitely not be willing to let others casually move in. Moreover, if the martial artists of the various sects were placed below and he was at the top, it would symbolize that he was nobler than them. On the Falling Star Continent, his sect was only a third-rate sect, not as good as your first-rate or second-rate sections. But on the planar battlefield, he would be much better than you. Yes. Li Qingyang accepted the order and left the main hall. He came to the construction site and said, "Where is junior brother Yi?" "Maybe he drank too much yesterday and is still sleeping," Xiao Ziji said. Li Fei, who was laying bricks, grinned and said, "Junior martial brother Yi always embarrasses himself when he drinks too much. Don't tell me he's sleeping outside the outhouse again." "I don't think so." Tian Qi put down the pile and said, "I saw that junior martial brother Yi was quite clear-headed yesterday. He didn't even sway when he walked. The wine that the Patriarch bought from Qingyang Town has a strong after-effect. If you don't expel it out of your body as soon as possible, you'll get drunk easily." While everyone was talking, Yi Xingqian walked over with a cold expression. Li Fei sniffed and said, "Junior brother Yi, what's the smell on your body?" Yi Xingqian roared in his heart, "I've already showered several times, but he can still smell it." The battlefield specters no longer came to give experience. The disciples of the sect of all times also focused on the construction, so the mountains were completed one after another. After they were done here, Li Qingyang led his fellow disciples to start the construction below. The Patriarch had instructed them to be very casual about the construction materials and the construction plan. Inside the sect, Li Tian, Hualing, and the others pushed down the walls that blocked their path and stepped into the Wu Huang level from the peak of Martial King. According to Jun Changxiao's statistics, 30 disciples had already broken through to the Wu Huang level. If they didn't have the assistance of the dimensional battlefield, which was used for practical combat experience, it would be difficult to do so in such a short time. In the past few days, many disciples have broken through to the peak of Martial King. It's a pity that there are no battlefield specters. Otherwise, we would definitely be able to create another batch of Wu Huang, Jun Changshao said dejectedly. The disciples of the sect of all times were already growing at a monstrous speed, but he was not satisfied. He wanted to improve even faster. 20 days later. The construction of the falling star continent stronghold was completed. 7 mountains floated above, crisscrossing each other. There were magnificent buildings on each mountain, as well as various supporting facilities. It was super luxurious. There was a small town below. Compared to the mountains, it was like heaven and earth. Patriarch Li Qingyang said, "We can continue to expand the area in the future." That won't be necessary. Jun Changshao had started the construction because he was stimulated by the vast continent stronghold hidden in the clouds. He had to build a territory that was more impressive than theirs. Now that it was completed, he would not invest anymore. After all, it was just a dungeon. He would leave after playing for a while. Li Qingyang and the others had been building for more than 40 days. There were only 20 days left before the falling star continent would enter the battlefield. The solemn atmosphere in the sky was getting stronger by the day. Whoosh! On a certain day, a fierce wind blew in the sky, and thick clouds gradually gathered together, making it so that the cultivators on the plain could see them clearly. It's here. The high priest walked out from the altar and looked up at the gathering clouds. He said with an ugly expression, "The battlefield gate." A phenomenon suddenly appeared in the sky, causing the martial artists on the continent to discuss it. What will come will come. Outside the main hall of a certain first-rate sect, an old man with an air of immortality sighed. Within the mountain forest, the kind-looking hermit was also looking at the natural phenomena. He thought to himself, "Although I will die in the planar battlefield this time, if I can fight for a chance at survival for my juniors, even if I have to die, I will have no regrets." Great Sage Royal City. City Lord Han stood in the City Lord Manor and looked at the gathering clouds. His frown deepened. "City Lord." An old servant said, "The patriarch of the sect of all times has come to visit. Why is this kid here?" City Lord Han did not understand, but he said, "Invite him in." Not long after, Jun Changshao walked in and cupped his hands. "Long time no see, City Lord Han. You're getting stronger with age." His words were not polite at all. Looking at City Lord Han's white hair, it was obvious that he had become haggard because of the planar battlefield. Just as he walked into the main hall, Jun Changshao looked at a coffin in the distance and asked, "Is there a funeral at home?" City Lord Han said solemnly, "I prepared this coffin for myself." Jun Changshao said, "From City Lord Han's complexion, it shouldn't be a problem for you to live for hundreds or thousands of years. Why would you prepare a coffin for yourself in advance? Could it be that you already know that your time is coming?" "That's right." City Lord Han said solemnly, 20 more days. Hearing this, Jun Changshao immediately understood that the coffin was prepared for him because he was going to enter the planar battlefield. "Uncle! Can you not be so pessimistic?" Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han calmed down and said, "You came all the way here to visit. Don't tell me you want to borrow the projection array again." "That's right," Jun Changshao said. City Lord Han rolled his eyes. He was just joking just now. He didn't expect that he would really come to borrow the projection array. City Lord Han. Jun Changshao handed over a spatial ring and said, "There are 100,000 artificial spirit stones here. Treat it as the usage fee." When a person did things, he would never lose his way. We're all old acquaintances. Don't talk about money like we're strangers. Although City Lord Han said that, his action of putting away the ring was very smooth. Jun Patriarch, why are you borrowing the projection array? Nothing much. I just want to announce something to all the cultivators of the falling star continent. What is it? Very important. City Lord Han didn't ask any more questions. He notified the array hall and told them to temporarily give up control of the projection array. This was unnecessary. This was because Jin Dijuan had already taken the initiative to hack it. City Lord Han. Jun Changshao stood at the spot where he had advertised for Tang Ren. He tidied up his clothes and said, "I want to borrow the venue again." "Use it as you wish," City Lord Han said. Jun Changshao placed his palms on his forehead and casually pushed back. He transmitted his voice, "Elder Jin, let's start." Buzz! 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 In an instant, streaks of light flashed above the cities of the falling star continent. Then, they gradually formed a projection array that was as smooth as a mirror. The cultivators who were discussing the appearance of the clouds suddenly realized that the array had been activated. They subconsciously blurted out, "That shameless guy is here again." Chapter 972. After the Master Chef competition ended, the projection array above the city operated for a few months before ending. All sorts of exaggerated advertisements gave the martial artists of the continent a headache. Moreover, they also discovered a law. Ever since the dragon and tiger battle for hegemony, as long as the projection array was activated, the patriarch of the sect of all times would be the first to appear on screen. Therefore, when the formation screen was activated again, the entire falling star continent was in an uproar. All the martial artists' scalps were about to explode. Swish! In an instant, scenes appeared on the screens of the various cities. Jun Changxiao's handsome face appeared on the screen as he smiled politely, "Friends, I missed you so much." Fuck! I guessed right. That shameless bastard appeared again. Plop! When the martial artists of the various cities saw Jun Changxiao appear on the screen, a large number of them fell down. This kind of ability was like hitting a cow across a mountain. Even Wu Xing couldn't do it. It could be seen how strong Go Xing's protagonist aura was. City Lord Han, who was standing at the side, twitched his mouth slightly. To be honest, when he saw that guy's smile and cheap tone, he couldn't wait to walk over and rub him on the ground a few times. Cough, cough, cough. Jun Changxiao moistened his throat and said, "Everyone, I believe you all know about the plain battlefield." Plain battlefield? The martial artists of the various cities were at a loss. City Lord Han's expression changed drastically as he hurriedly sent a sound transmission, "Jun Patriarch, this kind of thing can't be said." Regarding the plain battlefield, other than the major forces and the stronger rogue cultivators, ordinary martial artists definitely didn't know. Firstly, they couldn't help much even if they knew. Secondly, it would easily cause panic on the continent. "You don't know?" Jun Changxiao's expression suddenly became serious as he said, "City Lord Han, the plain battlefield is related to the future of the falling star continent. You can hide it for a while, but can you hide it for a lifetime?" This. City Lord Han was speechless. All the martial artists of the falling star continent have the right to know what calamity is about to befall their world, even if they can't help. Jun Changxiao's voice was very loud, and he didn't send a sound transmission alone. He wanted the entire continent to hear it. Plain battlefield? Calamity? The martial artists were even more at a loss. The martial artists who knew the truth were filled with sorrow. The matter of going to the planar battlefield had been weighing on their hearts for a long time. They didn't dare to tell their friends and family, fearing that they would worry. But how could this not be a type of torture? Everyone. Jun Changxiao looked at the camera and said solemnly, "The upper realm has a rule. Every 5 years, they will select a plane and enter their battlefields to fight. The winner will live and the loser will die. It's unfortunate." Pausing for a moment, he continued, "In this planar war, our Starfall continent has been selected. We must send 2,000 experts with at least Wu Huang's cultivation base into the planar war within the specified time to deal with the stronger existential planes." All the martial artists in the continent were dumbfounded. Sending 2,000 powerhouses whose cultivation base was at least Wu Huang's level. Even if one were to think with their toes, they would know that the so-called battlefield would be extremely cruel. Ever since the War of Emperors, our Starfall continent has never recovered from the setback. Going to the planar battlefield is undoubtedly an act of suicide. Therefore, it is not an exaggeration to say that it is a catastrophe. Jun Changshao added. Plop. At the gate of a certain city, a few youths knelt on the ground and cried, "Master, you said that you will be leaving for a period of time soon and told us to cultivate well. Could it be, Sai?" The old man turned his back to his disciples and sighed. "That's right. I am going to enter the planar battlefield." Some of the juniors who had been feeling that something was wrong heard Jun Changshao's words and thought about how their elders seemed to be making arrangements for their deaths a long time ago. They suddenly understood. "Father." In a certain family, a young man ran in and knelt in front of his father. He cried and said, "Are you going to the planar battlefield? Is that why you gave the position of family head to me?" "Son." The family head stood up and patted his head. "Since you know, you should cultivate harder. The future of our Qin family depends on you." "Father. Can we not go to the planar battlefield?" The young man cried. The family head said, "The planar battlefield is a disaster for the Starfall continent. Even if I know that it is a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, I will still go because, at least it will give the younger generation a glimmer of hope." City Lord Han was also on the screen. He remained silent, and his expression became more and more painful. This made the martial artists of the continent realize that Jun Changshao wasn't trying to mislead them. The planar battlefield exists. Our Starfall continent is really going to face a catastrophe. However, at this moment, Jun Changshao changed the topic and said with a smile, "Those experts who are about to enter the planar battlefield, if they are willing to spend some money to make connections, they won't be in any danger." Qin Ye's serious face suddenly turned into a smile. This change was too fast, and the martial artists of the continent were all stunned. "Jun Patriarch." City Lord Han's eyes widened. "What do you mean by making connections?" "Spend money to avoid disaster," Jun Changshao said. City Lord Han naturally understood the meaning of spending money to avoid disaster. He hurriedly asked, "Who do you want to make connections with?" Jun Changshao pointed at himself and said, "Me." "You?" "That's right." City Lord Han collapsed. "Jun Patriarch, the Starfall continent is about to face a catastrophe. Don't you feel pain for joking like this?" The first batch of martial artists were furious. They were prepared to die in the planar battlefield, but this guy actually dared to joke about it. They couldn't bear it. "Jun knows that you don't believe me, so I'm too lazy to explain. You will understand after entering the planar battlefield." Jun Changshao wouldn't force them. After all, even if he said that the stronghold had developed to the size of a town, they wouldn't believe him. They would only know the truth after entering the planar battlefield. However, Jun Changshao added, "I'll be frank with you. The first batch of cultivators to enter the planar battlefield only needs to pay me 10,000 natural spirit stones, and they will be safe in the planar battlefield. If you pay me after you enter, the price will be several times higher, 10,000 natural spirit stones? Does this guy take us for fools? I think he's not joking. He's trying to cheat us." The experts of the Starfall continent were furious. They even felt that their intelligence had been insulted. City Lord Han couldn't hold it in anymore. He said, "Jun Patriarch, you're trying to cheat us when the continent is in trouble. You're too much." Giving him 10,000 natural spiritual stones to ensure his safety in the planar battlefield? Only an idiot would believe that. Swish! At that moment, the formation array of each city was turned off. City Lord Han. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, "It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Jun will take his leave first." With that, he turned and left. The main reason he came to the Zhongzhuang province to inform the world was to pave the way for the experts to enter the planar battlefield. It didn't matter if they paid or not, because they would earn more after entering the planar battlefield. To put it bluntly, Jun Changshao was just telling the truth. When they really entered the planar battlefield and saw the scale of the Starfall continent, they would naturally know whether he was lying or not. Then, they would be willing to pay more natural spirit stones. Some people would ask, what if the elders of the various sects entered the planar battlefield and didn't pay? This assumption didn't exist. As long as Go Sheng wanted to extort people, he would definitely have many ways to do so. Moreover, this really couldn't be considered extortion. At the very least, he had worked hard and contributed to the Starfall continent's stronghold, and had even beaten the surrounding continents into submission. For the Starfall continent, it was a sure death situation. Now, it was probably going to turn into a vacation. Wasn't it right and proper to take their money? Sigh. After returning to the Sect of all times, Jun Changshao sat on a chair and shook his head. I never thought that I, Jun Changshao, would have the noble sentiments of saving the world from fire and water. After City Lord Han and the others know the truth, will they send me a banner? Chapter 973. If they gave Jun Changshao 10,000 natural spirit stones, they would be safe in the planar battlefield. This made the martial artists of the Starfall continent feel insulted. They almost went to Iron Bone Mountain to curse at him. The high priest on the altar was already cursing. The matter of the planar battlefield had always been kept secret from the world. This bastard actually used a projection array to announce it to the world. In fact, it might not be a bad thing to announce it. At least, it would let the younger generation understand that this was a disaster for the Starfall continent. It would stimulate them to work hard to become stronger. However, even if it was announced to the whole continent, it would not be his turn. High Priest. An old man said angrily, this trip to the planar battlefield is a disaster for our continent. That Jun Changshao actually dared to cheat us of our money. This is unforgivable. Pull strings and spend money to avoid disaster. Someone next to him sneered. Is this guy's brain damaged? The high priest said, the powerhouses are not 3-year-old children. Why would they believe this kid? Indeed. No one believed Jun Changshao. Even Mu Changhong, who had a good relationship with him. At this moment, he had already arrived at the Sect of all times. He sat in the cafeteria and ate delicious food. After a while, he said with a frown, Jun Patriarch, in the middle of a disaster, what kind of show are you putting on? City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao said seriously, we once discussed if we could spend some money in exchange for safety in the planar battlefield. Yes, we did. Mu Changhong said. Jun Changshao said, this time, I gave the powerhouses of the continent a chance. Since they did not agree, there is nothing I can do. Mu Changhong broke down. Jun Patriarch, if we can really spend money to avoid disaster, no one will care about 10,000 natural spirit stones. But, if we give you the money, that is a bit of nonsense. Come, let's drink. Jun Changshao raised his cup. Some things were useless to explain. If he did not rely on the teleportation gate to sneak in, he might not believe it himself. Forget it, forget it. 20 days later, you will understand when you enter the planar battlefield. City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao drank a cup of wine and said, we have a good relationship, and your daughter is also an inner disciple of the Sect of all times. Entering the planar battlefield will definitely not require any fees. Mu Changhong was speechless. This fellow spoke as though the planar battlefield was his home. 20 days was neither short nor long. Jun Changshao began to think about how to make the various experts willingly hand over the money after entering the planar battlefield. Patriarch. While he was thinking, Zhen Dejuan walked in excitedly and said, there's been progress in the Ultra Chapter's teleportation array. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. This is great news. In the Supreme Chapter of the Mystic Gate's 32 formations, there was a type of formation called the Super Teleportation Formation. Its function was to teleport from one location to another. However, it was on a higher level. Ever since Shen Dejuan and Shengguan Xinyao broke through the 10-directional life-ending pagoda, they began to study it and only made some progress today. Array formation peak, backyard. A flowing light formation flashed. Patriarch. Jin Dejuan pointed and said, "This is the super teleportation formation." "It's a little small," Jun Changshao said. Jin Dejuan shook his head helplessly. "It's just a small formation. Xinyao and I studied it for half a year and tested it no less than 100 times. Where's the other point?" Jun Changshao asked. Two super teleportation formations had to be set up at the same time to teleport from point A to point B and from point B back to point A, Jin Dejuan said. "It's located outside Qingyang City. It can only teleport 200 miles. "That's right. That's a little too little." Jin Dejuan's mouth twitched. It was not easy for him and Xinyao to be able to study it, but the patriarch actually despised it. Jun Changshao asked the two of them to study the super teleportation formation because he hoped to set up teleportation points in the various states in the future to facilitate the movement of disciples or the transmission of information. 200 miles of teleportation distance was not bad, but in a large world like the Starfall continent, the distance was too short. "No rush, no rush." Jun Changshao comforted himself. "We've just started studying it. The technology is not mature yet. Walk in directly." "That's right." Swoosh! Jun Changshao took a step forward and stepped into it. Then, his body turned illusory, and with a xiao sound, he disappeared. Outside Qingyang City, in the mountains. A young man and woman were dating when a stream of light flashed beside them. The two of them were shocked and retreated. "Ta!" Jun Changshao walked out of the light screen and spread out his spiritual thoughts. After confirming that he was in Qingyang City, a smile appeared on his face. Jun Patriarch." The couple's eyes gradually widened. The place where the two of them were in was very hidden. The patriarch of the sect of all times suddenly appeared out of thin air. This was simply too strange. "Sorry to disturb you." Gosheng smiled and said, "Please continue." He took a step back and entered the super teleportation formation again. He was already teleported back to the sect of all times. Swoosh! The formation barrier quickly disappeared and hid in the dark again. The young man and woman were not in the mood to be intimate. They looked at each other and then said in horror, "What? What the hell? Not bad." After returning to the sect of all times, Jun Changshao nodded in satisfaction. This kind of teleportation hundreds of miles away was obviously faster than flying. It was very good whether it was used for operations or support. It could be popularized on a large scale. "Elder Zhen," Jun Changshao said, "can this formation be set up on a large scale?" It did not matter if the distance was short. It could be set up in a fixed range to teleport from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, yes. But, Jin Dejuan paused for a moment and said, "The super teleportation formation's core is powered by spirit stones. Just now, the patriarch teleported back and forth, and 2 of the 10 man-made spirit stones placed inside have been used up." "No way." Jun Changshao said in shock, "Teleportation consumes spirit stones?" Jin Dejuan said, "Based on my and Xinyao's understanding of the super teleportation formation, teleporting one person requires 1 man-made spirit stone." Jun Changshao was speechless. He was thinking that after the formation was fully covered, the disciples would be able to easily travel back and forth between states and counties. Now, 1 spirit stone was needed for each person. This would require tens of thousands of people to teleport several times. No matter how rich he was, he could not afford to burn it. The system said, this kind of space-type formation does not require energy to operate. How can it teleport people out? That's true, Jun Changshao said. Jin Dejuan said, if we use natural spirit stones as the core, the number of teleportations will increase greatly. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. He also knew that natural spirit stones would be more effective. However, this thing was too precious. Using it for teleportation was definitely a waste of God's gift. Sigh. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and said, the super teleportation formation must be popularized. After all, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Therefore, in this planar battlefield, we must do our best to take advantage of the strong. Oh, right. We can set up the super teleportation formation in the strongholds of the falling star continent. If they don't pay, we can teleport them out of the strongholds. It's best to teleport them to places where the strong from the other planes often appear. The system, the host, was full of evil ideas. Time passed day by day. The clouds gathered in the sky of the falling star continent turned from illusory to solid. When there were 7 days left, a huge and tall gate was formed. Jun Changshao, who was sitting outside the main hall, looked up and said, "For the strong from the other planes, this is the gate to hell." The gate stood tall in the sky. The desolate and solemn atmosphere of the falling star continent became even more intense. The strong cultivators who were selected as the first batch to enter had already come out of seclusion and were mentally prepared to die. On the earth spirit instrument in the altar, time passed mercilessly. When it reached 0, the gate made of clouds in the sky began to materialize. Then, a bronze gate with various carvings appeared. Whoosh whoosh. An ancient aura swept across the continent. The gate to the battlefield opens today. The martial cultivators of the falling star continent must enter within 1 day. Otherwise, they will suffer the most severe punishment from the upper realm. A desolate voice suddenly sounded, shaking the hearts of all the living beings on the continent. Creak. As the voice fell, the 2 tightly shut gates were pushed open by some kind of power. An even more desolate aura whizzed out. Streams of light gradually gathered into the shape of a vortex. This day has finally come. This day has finally come. The same words, when spoken by the high priest and young master Yuan, had different meanings. Chapter 974. The door to the battlefield slowly opened. All the martial artists on the falling star continent witnessed it. This day had finally come. The high priest outside the altar had a bitter expression. The opening of the battlefield meant that the continent would send in 2,000 experts. Although it was called competing with the other planes, it was actually sending them to their deaths. Yuan Gongzi, who was in a forbidden area, covered his face and laughed. He had been waiting for this day. He had been waiting for the elites of the various sects to be sent out. Then, he would make a big scene. Whoosh! Whoosh! Streams of light flew from the top to the bottom and stopped in front of the bronze door that had just been opened. These dozens of people were all old, and their bodies were emitting a holy aura. Clearly, they were either half-saints or martial saints. City Lord Han was here. Mu Changhong was here. Situ Haoyan was here too. Whoosh! Whoosh! Close to 2,000 Emperor-level experts from all over the world also flew up and hovered below the Saint-level experts. The first batch of people to enter the battlefield. 6 Wusheng, 14 half-step Wusheng, and the rest were all emperors. Some were from large sects, some were from large families, and some were lone cultivators. They gathered in front of the bronze door. Although they didn't deliberately release their auras, they still emitted a terrifying aura. Patriarch. Li Qingyang stood in front of the hall and said, "There are many experts on the falling star continent." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "At most, they'll be in the 9th echelon. Let alone the Scarlet Sea continent, even the 8th echelon will beat them to a pulp." Heavens, there are so many experts. They must be Wu Huang to be able to fly in the sky. All the martial artists on the falling star continent looked at the sky with deep respect. After Jun Changshao announced the matter of the planar battlefield, they already understood that these people were fighting for the continent, and they deserved to be respected. Father. In a certain family, a young man who had just taken over the position of the family head looked at the sky and clenched his fists. Your son will revive the Qin family and not disappoint you. Master. On the mountain peak, the man with a sword on his back swore, this disciple will definitely bring glory to the ultimate sword Tao. Similar situations were happening all over the continent. The younger generation that had been arranged by the older generation turned their grief into strength, vowing to bring glory to their ancestors and continue their glory. Inside Miaohua Palace. Shi Jingxian adjusted her retro glasses and prayed, Grand Elder should also be in the first batch. I hope she can return safely. A bitter smile appeared on Zhangsun Fanghua and Ling Xinyue's faces. Just from the aura emanating from the gate, the planar battlefield was definitely incomparably terrifying. If the Grand Elders and the others were able to return alive, that would only be a dream. Under the bronze gate, an old man with a transcendent air said solemnly, no matter how dangerous it is to enter the planar battlefield, we must do our best. The gazes of the various experts turned solemn. During this period of time, they had already mentally prepared themselves. Once they entered the battlefield, they had to expand their territory. Even if they died in battle, it didn't matter. The wind is bleak, the water is cold, the warrior leaves and never returns. Everyone. The old man waved his sleeve and said, Go in. Wait. At this moment, a voice came from behind. The various experts who were about to move turned to look. Jun Changshao hovered in the distance, holding a loudspeaker in his hand as he said, If you pay now, it will only cost 10,000 natural spirit stones. If you pay after you enter, it will be 100,000 natural spirit stones. So, this opportunity must not be missed. It will not come again. City Lord Han, Mu Changhong and Sidu Haoyan's mouths twitched. My great patriarch Jun, everyone is preparing to sacrifice themselves. It's fine if you don't encourage them, but you dare to scam them of their money? Is this something a human should do? Brat! A bad-tempered expert said angrily, Do you think we are 3-year-old children? Humph! The expert beside him said coldly, If it weren't for the delay in entering the planar battlefield, this old man would have gone to your esteemed sect as a guest. The sect of all time's patriarch is such a bastard. Does he really think that this group of experts is stupid? Why would they give him 10,000 natural spirit stones for no reason? Fuck. If I were stronger than him, I would definitely give him a good beating. The cultivators in the various cities cursed angrily. All right. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, This seat sincerely wishes all of you brave warriors that enter the planar battlefield and spread the might of my falling star continent. If he didn't mention the matter of money first, this sentence would definitely win the favor of the various experts. But now, they felt that this kid was deliberately mocking them. Jun Patriarch. An elder of the Radiant Light Holy Sect said coldly, We are the first batch to enter, and you are the second batch. I hope that when the time comes, you won't find any excuses. Don't be a coward. Jun Changshao said, Everyone is responsible for the rise and fall of the world. If you need Jun, I will definitely climb a mountain of swords and dive into a sea of flames, even if I have to die 10,000 times. However, he paused and said, There is no need to enter. The last sentence was definitely not understood by the crowd, but the old man in the lead said, Everyone, let's not waste any more time. Let's enter. After saying that, he walked towards the bronze gate and disappeared into the vortex. The experts didn't hesitate and entered in order. Jun Patriarch. When it was Mu Changhong's turn, he stopped in front of the gate and solemnly transmitted his voice, I'll leave Red Lotus in your care. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, City Lord Mu, take care. System, entering the planar battlefield was clearly nothing, but he had to pretend to be separated by life and death. This was simply too despicable. Who knew if City Lord Mu would beat him to death after going in and learning the truth? Father. Master. The experts of the continent entered the planar battlefield one after another. The juniors couldn't suppress their emotions anymore and knelt on the ground, roaring at the sky. Their cheeks were already covered in tears. On this day, 2,000 experts of the falling star continent and above entered the planar battlefield for the sake of the world without hesitation. This touched everyone and was destined to be recorded in the annals of history. 2,000 people, 100,000, 2,000 times 100,000 equals. Jun Changshao returned to the sect and stood in front of the planar battlefield teleportation gate. His breathing was slightly hurried as he said, I'm going to be rich. At the falling star continent's stronghold, the empty space below the floating mountain suddenly distorted and then gradually converged into a vortex. Shwa! After a while, a sage-like old man walked out from inside. He stepped on the limestone floor. After getting used to everything, his fingers trembled violently as he said, "This is the planar battlefield." His voice suddenly stopped. Because he saw a wide road, saw buildings, and neatly lined up in front of him, the disciples of the sect of all times. "Welcome, welcome! A warm welcome!" Li Qingyang and the others shouted loudly with their hands behind their backs. Although the sage-like old man had reached Wusheng's level, at this moment, he almost stumbled and fell to the ground. His mind was filled with thoughts. Wasn't he the first to enter? How could the disciples of the sect of all times be the first to enter the planar battlefield? Shwa! Shwa! More martial artists entered through the planar battlefield gate. They didn't even have time to feel the chill of the planar battlefield before they heard the welcoming voices. Without exception, they were all stunned. The ones with the most interesting expressions were Mu Changhong and Situ Haoyan. After all, the two of them were very familiar with the sect of all times. They immediately recognized that the people welcoming them were all core disciples. And Huoling. And Chu Xiaonan. Wait! Mu Changhong suddenly saw Mu Honglian in the crowd. He subconsciously rubbed his eyes and said in disbelief, am I dreaming? Shwa! At this moment, Xiao Ziji stepped forward and arranged a chair. Jun Changshao flew down and sat down. He crossed his legs and lightly placed his hands on top of them. He smiled and said, "Welcome to the planar battlefield and the stronghold of the falling star continent. I am the first stronghold master, Jun Changshao." Chapter 975. 2,000 warriors had entered the dimensional battlefield and were prepared to face death with equanimity. However, when they entered through the bronze door and saw the limestone floor, the various orderly buildings, and the disciples of the sect of all times, they all stood rooted to the ground as if they had been struck by lightning. At this moment, they really wanted to ask loudly what was going on. And Jun Changshao. This guy was clearly talking to them and didn't enter the dimensional door. How did he appear in front of them? Gou Sheng leaned back and clasped his hands together. Everyone must be very confused right now. Jun will explain in detail. Everyone hurriedly pricked up their ears. The cause of this is that the sect of all times inherited an ancient inheritance and accidentally obtained a treasure that allowed us to enter the dimensional battlefield in advance, Jun Changshao said. Good. The system said, he's bragging again. City Lord Han calmed down and said, Jun Patriarch means that your sect relied on a treasure to enter the dimensional battlefield in advance? That's right. Jun Changshao said, it's been almost 2 years since we entered. The corners of the experts' mouths twitched. If they were in the falling star continent and Jun Changshao said this, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. However, they had no choice but to believe it now because they really couldn't explain how he had entered before them. When Jun first entered, the falling star continent's stronghold was only a few feet in size. Now, it's infinitely close to the size of a city. It was the sect of all times who fought for it, Jun Changshao said. This sentence made all the martial artists suspicious. They could accept that the sect of all times had relied on a treasure to enter, but what power did they have to expand their territory in the dimensional battlefield? Moreover, according to the high priest, killing warriors would only increase the size of the dimensional battlefield by a little. Based on the number of people they were in, how many people would they have to kill to achieve that? Wait a minute. Wasn't the requirement to enter the dimensional battlefield Wu Huang? The warriors suddenly came to a realization and carefully sized up the dozens of disciples behind Jun Changshao. They exclaimed in unison, they're all Wu Huang. Everyone. Jun Gosheng smiled and said, please look up. Raise my head. Everyone was stunned. They subconsciously raised their heads and saw 7 intertwining mountains floating in the air. Everyone's eyes widened and their jaws dropped. Seeing their expressions, Jun Changshao felt a little smug. The reason why he had spent so much money to build the floating mountain was to show off. Now that the martial artists of the falling star continent had been shocked by his masterpiece, he was definitely going to show off. Everyone. Jun Changshao said, every inch of land in the falling star continent was built by the sect of all times. Every tile on the house was built by the sect of all times. It's not too much to ask you for spiritual stones, is it? Not too much, very reasonable. Jun Patriarch. However, one of the Wuxing members frowned and said, you have no proof. How can we believe you? They already believed that he had relied on a treasure to enter. However, they were strongly doubtful that the sect of all times had built the stronghold. After all, such a large area and the scale of the city couldn't have been built in a day. Damn you! Jun Changshao cursed in his heart. He was also very conflicted. How could he prove that the stronghold was built by himself? If he had known earlier, he would have recorded it with an impression formation and played it back for them to see. I think so, an expert said. An expert said, before Sect Master Jun came here, the Starfall continent's stronghold was already this big. Bullshit. Jun Changshao slapped the armrest and roared, the sect of all times built this stronghold step by step with blood and sweat. Otherwise, it would have been a wasteland when you came in. Patriarch. Li Qingyang hurriedly transmitted, calm down. Calm down. Jun Gosheng had fought with the planar battlefield so many times, and he had been hunted down by tens of thousands of planar cultivators because of a fortuitous encounter. He had also been punished by the lightning tribulation and the battlefield specters in exchange for the current scale of his stronghold on the falling star continent. In the end, he was questioned by them. Everyone. Jun Changshao said with a sullen face, if you want to leave the planar battlefield safely, you have to pay 100,000 natural spirit stones. If you don't pay, don't blame me for cutting ties with you. Angry. Irritable. Swoosh. Swoosh. The Purple King and Ding Xingwang hurriedly flew down from the main peak. Their auras erupted as if they were ready to fight at any time. Jun Patriarch. Mu Changhong said with a firm gaze, I believe that the falling star continent's stronghold was built by your sect. I believe it too. City Lord Han said. The cultivators didn't say anything. They were all considering whether this kid's words could be trusted or not. Actually, it didn't matter to Jun Changshao whether they believed it or not. Since he had done it, he didn't care about their approval. He just needed to hand over the money. Me. Stronghold Master Jun Changshao. Hurry up and transfer the money. Jun Patriarch. The sage-like Wuxing said, this stronghold master can be self-proclaimed? Why? Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, you don't approve of me. It's not that I don't approve of you. It's that the stronghold master needs to be elected by everyone. Self-proclamation alone won't do. The falling star continent's population has reached more than 2,000, and it meets the size requirement. It's officially classified as a town-level stronghold. This announcement is hereby made. Suddenly, Desolate's heavy voice sounded in the sky. Dear participant, 2,000 cultivators entered the stronghold, and it automatically expanded to meet the size of the town. Therefore, it has been recognized by the upper realm, the female system said. I see. Desolate's voice sounded again. According to the upper realm settlement, the martial cultivator named Jun Changshao has received a total of 63,000 merit points. He's the highest among the cultivators in the falling star continent and has been appointed as the first stronghold master. This announcement is hereby made. Fuck. 63,000 merit points. That's too scary. All the cultivators' eyes widened when they heard the announcement. Many people would be overjoyed if they had 300 to 500 merit points. It was unimaginable for one person to receive 60,000 merit points. Of course. The cultivators knew that the reason why that guy had so many merit points must have something to do with the crazy massacre earlier. Although the cultivators from the falling star continent who had just entered the dimensional battlefield did not know anything about merit points, their expressions became interesting when they heard that Jun Changshao had been appointed as the first stronghold master. This was especially true for the martial saint with the demeanor of a transcendent being. He had just said that everyone needed to be elected, but the upper realm had already made the decision. It was a slap in the face. Whoosh! At this moment, a red light flew out from the sky, bypassed the 7 floating mountains, and hovered in front of Jun Changshao. When the light dissipated, a gold-rimmed token with the words Stronghold Master of the Falling Star Continent engraved on it was a token. City Lord Han and the others were shocked. Although the token was not big, it emitted an aura that made them tremble in fear. They could not help but think, is this item from the upper realm? Swoosh! Jun Changshao grabbed the token and said calmly, now, does anyone have any doubts? Everyone fell silent. Jun doesn't like to talk nonsense. Jun Changshao glanced at everyone and said, hurry up and pay up. Perhaps it was due to the fact that he held the Starfall Continent Settlement Master's token, but his words carried an inviolable authority. Of course. Jun Changshao pointed to the sky and said, those who pay can not only return safely, but they can also live up there and enjoy the experience that only Xinyue's high-level users can have. Jun Patriarch. A powerhouse said with an ugly expression, 100,000 natural spirit stones is a bit expensive. Can you give us 10,000? Jun Changshao put his hand on his leg and said coldly, this is a small business. No bargaining. Chapter 976. After entering the dimensional battlefield, they had to pay 100,000. Jun Changshao wouldn't back down when it came to money. Moreover, it wasn't like he didn't warn them. If they missed it, they wouldn't get another chance. The experts' expressions turned ugly. Not to mention 100,000 natural spirit stones, even if they were converted into man-made spirit stones, it would still be a huge sum. Everyone. Jun Changshao said, according to the rules of the upper realm, once a dimensional stronghold reaches the size of a town, you can freely enter and leave. Now that Jun completed it ahead of time, you can leave as you wish. 100,000 natural spirit stones isn't a loss, right? Not a loss. City Lord Han stepped forward and said, I'm willing to pay 100,000 natural spirit stones. It wasn't an act. He was really willing to pay. Before entering, he was already prepared to die. Now that the stronghold had reached the size of a town, he didn't need to go out to fight at all. It was definitely a great thing. What was the point of spending some money to get out of this place safely? City Lord Han. Jun Changshao said, one look and I can tell you're an understanding person. City Lord Han waved his hand and threw a spatial ring over. There are 100,000 natural spirit stones inside. Jun Patriarch, please check. No need. Jun Changshao took the ring and snapped his fingers. Swish! 10 steps in front of them, a flowing light array appeared out of thin air. City Lord Han. Jun Changshao said, this is the teleportation array to the floating mountain. You're now a high-level user of Xinyue. You can stay here permanently or return to the Falling Star Continent immediately. After the stronghold reached the size of a town, a bronze gate appeared on the main peak. There was one at the bottom and one at the top, representing entry and exit. Jun Changshao hadn't expected that they would be separated and even divided into top and bottom. However, he was also very happy to see it. That was because the top was supported by a formation. If any martial artist wanted to go out, they would have to pay him. Swish! City Lord Han didn't hesitate and walked over. Then, he was teleported to a floating mountain. City Lord Han. A disciple walked over and pointed at the courtyard hidden in the bamboo forest. He smiled and said, this is your residence. City Lord Han nodded and set off. Along the way, he observed the magnificent buildings around him as well as the pleasing scenery. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The treatment of paying is really different. Jun Patriarch. Mu Changhong said awkwardly, 100,000 natural spirit stones. City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao said, You don't have to pay. Mu Changhong was a little stunned. However, since the other party had said so, he thickened his skin and walked towards the teleportation array. When City Lord Mu was teleported to the floating mountain and saw the surrounding buildings, he said with certainty, "It's very similar to the architectural style of the sect of all times. It must have been built by June Patriarch and the others." "Father." Mu Honglian landed beside him with a smile on her face. Mu Changhong said bitterly, "Daughter, did you come in earlier?" "Okay," Mu Honglian said. Mu Changhong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had been so worried that he didn't even have the appetite to eat. Sigh. He sighed and said, "June Patriarch kept saying that there would be a miracle. It turns out that he was already confident." Mu Honglian said, "The Patriarch's stronghold on the falling star continent was once besieged by tens of thousands of warriors." Tens of thousands? City Lord Mu's eyes widened. The lowest cultivation level to enter the battlefield was Wu Huang's level. Tens of thousands of people at that level was very shocking. Mu Honglian said, "Although the Patriarch killed more than 20,000 in the end, he was punished by the upper realm." Killed 20,000? Mu Changhong's eyes almost popped out. Whoosh! At this moment, another person walked out of the teleportation array. It was obvious that he had paid 100,000 natural spirit stones to become a Xinyue VIP. Whoosh! 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 Many more falling star continent experts were teleported to the floating mountain. These people came from big families. Although 100,000 natural spirit stones was a large number, they would be willing to pay as long as they could leave the battlefield safely. They could earn more resources, but they would lose everything if they lost their lives. The various cultivators below also gradually realized this point. Thus, they all handed over 100,000 natural spirit stones and were then transported up. When they arrived at the majestic floating mountain and saw the magnificent buildings, they were all deeply shocked. What kind of place was the dimensional battlefield? It was a terrifying hell where people could die at any time. But in this hell, their stronghold was built like heaven. This was absolutely unimaginable. June Patriarch. A white-haired old woman said, "I didn't bring so many natural spirit stones. Can I owe you first?" June Changshao said, "Senior, from your clothes, you should be from the Ingenious Flower Palace, right?" "That's right." The old woman said, "I am Han Shuhua, the Grand Elder of the Ingenious Flower Palace." June Changshao hurriedly stood up and cupped his hands. The Sect of all times and the Ingenious Flower Palace have been allies for a long time. We are family. How can we take Senior's money? Qingyang, bring Senior Han up and arrange the best accommodation. Yes. Li Qingyang cupped his hands and said, "Senior Han, this way please." Han Shuhua was brought to the floating mountain in a daze and arranged to stay on the second peak closest to the main peak. Her residence was also a super luxurious villa. City Lord Han and the others who were arranged to stay not only had their own residences, but they could also leave immediately because the bronze gate was above the main peak. However, the experts who spent money naturally wouldn't leave so easily. After all, it wouldn't be right to leave without seeing the dimensional battlefield. Swoosh! Swoosh! One warrior after another was teleported to the floating mountain and enjoyed the treatment of a VIP. June Gosheng's money bag also slowly filled up. Of course. Not everyone was willing to spend money. For example, first-rate sects like the Taishan Shengzong and the Luminous Light Holy Sect. Everyone. June Changshao said, "I will only give you 15 minutes to consider. If you don't pay up, you will bear the consequences." The Luminous Light Holy Sect elder said indifferently, "June Patriarch, it's still uncertain whether you built this stronghold or not. It's a bit too much for you to blatantly cheat everyone of their money." "Damn it. And you say I'm cheating you?" "Paw!" June Changshao snapped his fingers. Light flashed under the feet of the Taishan Shengzong and the Luminous Light Holy Sect's experts, and then they were instantly teleported out of the stronghold into an unfamiliar environment with dense killing intent. Whoosh! 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 Hundreds of streams of light suddenly flew over and surrounded them. Among these people, there were 5 earth and dozens of Xian. They were very powerful in terms of strength. Kakik! The old man in the lead laughed eerily and said, "These seem to be warriors from the falling star continent. Kill them and you will have merit points." The expressions of the Taishan Shengzong and the luminous light holy sects experts changed drastically. Their strength was not bad, but there were only 2 wusheng and a few half-saints. Compared to these plain warriors, there was definitely a big gap. Everyone. At this moment, Jun Changxiao's voice was heard. You are now outside the stronghold and will be attacked endlessly by the plain warriors. Whether you can come back alive will depend on your luck. The other meaning of this was that they would be given money to stay in the villa, but not the graveyard. Jun Patriarch. The Wu Sheng from the luminous light holy sect hurriedly shouted, "We are willing to pay." Chapter 977. Taishan Shengzong and the 8 experts from the Radiant Light sect were sent out of the stronghold and then surrounded by hundreds of existential plane cultivators. The situation was dire. One of the Wuxing didn't care if Jun Changxiao heard him and hurriedly shouted, "Jun Patriarch, we're willing to pay." If there were only a few people, he would still have the guts to fight. However, there were 8 Wusheng, who wasn't any weaker than him, and dozens of half-sages. If they fought, they would definitely die. Are you sure? I'm sure. What about the others? Pay up. Take 5 steps back. Taishan Shengzong and the Radiant Light sect experts hurriedly took 5 steps back and then stepped on a hidden teleportation array. With a whoosh, they were teleported back to the stronghold. It was strange. The hundreds of existential plane cultivators watched them leave and didn't make a move. Everyone. Jun Changxiao transmitted his voice, "Thank you for your hard work." You're welcome, Jun Patriarch. The leader of the existential plane cultivators cupped his hands and then led the group away. They came from the Lingyuan continent. When the battlefield specters attacked the stronghold, Goshing blackmailed the Crimson Sea continent cultivators. It was this existential plane that cooperated and paid up first. Inside the stronghold, the experts from the 2 sects who were teleported back had terrified expressions on their faces. At this moment, they realized how terrifying the existential plane battlefield was. There was a large group of people comparable to half-sages and wusheng. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said, "Pay up. Pay, pay, pay." Taishan Shengzong and the Radiant Light sect cultivators were frightened and hurriedly paid up. The leader compromised. The other sects didn't insist and also offered up their spirit stones. 2,000 experts were teleported to the floating mountain one by one. Jun Patriarch was grinning from ear to ear because he had earned close to 200 million spirit stones. This was a very large number. If it was divided among 70,000 disciples, they would each get close to 3,000 spirit stones. Standing up, Jun Changxiao stretched his waist and grinned, "Looks like I didn't work for nothing in the past 2 years." The system said, 200 million natural spirit stones are enough to provide the sect disciples with sufficient resources to greatly increase their cultivation. The smile on Jun Patriarch's face deepened. There were already 70,000 people in the sect. The martial arts facilities in the mall alone were far from enough. As long as there were enough martial arts resources, it would be easier to break through to the next realm. With such a large amount of martial arts resources, Wuzong won't be a problem for the entire sect, Jun Changxiao said. The system said, as long as the supply of Martial Emperor pills can keep up, it won't be hard for all the disciples to reach the Martial Emperor realm in a short period of time. The key is that they can't keep up, Jun Changxiao said. This kind of medicinal pill that could raise one's cultivation level required a lot of medicinal herbs and had a long maturation period. It was impossible for every disciple to have one. However, with a few 100 million natural spiritual stones, the disciples would be able to quickly reach the peak of Wuzong and wait for the Martial Emperor pills. In the past, they could refine a fixed amount of Martial Emperor pills every once in a while, but the disciples might not meet the requirements. Now, as long as the natural spiritual stones were distributed, the situation would definitely be reversed. Comfortable. It's so damn comfortable. The 2,000 experts of the falling star continent were all settled on the floating mountain. Although they were all happy customers, the treatment was slightly different. Those who were familiar with Jun Changshao lived in the villa, while those who were unfamiliar or had grudges lived in the side rooms. The killing intent here is so strong. Looking at the dark sky, I feel very oppressed. Many warriors must have died here, otherwise the atmosphere wouldn't be like this. Many experts gathered to discuss the plain battlefield and shared their feelings after coming here. Everyone. Jun Changshao stood on the main peak and said, "Our stronghold has two neighbors. On the left is the Red Sea continent, and on the right is the Lingyun continent." Ah! All the experts opened their eyes wide. They had heard from the high priest that these two plains like to bully newcomers. Our falling star continent is next to them, we will definitely be unlucky. The warriors who originally wanted to leave the stronghold to explore all gave up the idea, afraid that they would meet the warriors of the Red Sea continent and the Lingyun continent outside and lose their lives for nothing. These two plains are very unfriendly. When I first came here, I was bullied by them. Jun Changshao said. However, after a pause, he said, "There is no threat now, because they have been beaten up by the sect of all times." Everyone's mouth twitched, expressing their doubts. The planes that can enter the battlefield are not friendly. If you want to go out and take a look and don't want to be harassed, you can wear the sect of all times uniform. Jun Changshao said. Snap. He snapped his fingers. Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji landed and took out a large pile of sect of all times uniforms. The sect of all times uniforms are made of high-quality materials and are purely handmade. Since we are all from the same plane, a set only costs 1,000 natural spirit stones, Jun Changshao said. All the experts' mouths twitched. Entering the floating mountain costs us 100,000 natural spirit stones, and the clothes are extra. Is this guy only thinking about money? Of course. Jun Changshao said seriously, "The clothes have my signature. Not only can they be worn, but they are also very valuable." Fortunately, everyone present was an emperor stage expert or higher. Otherwise, they would have cursed out loud. Outside the stronghold, Mu Changhong was wearing the Sect of All Times uniform. He flew in the sky with lingering fear. In the end, he could not help but ask, "Daughter, this plain battlefield is very dangerous. Is it really safe for us to come out?" "Father." Mu Honglian smiled and said, "It is very safe." Although City Lord Mu trusted his daughter, he still felt very nervous when he sensed the gradually increasing killing intent in the air. Swish! 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 At this moment, streaks of light flew over from afar. The aura they emitted shocked him. Heavens, they are all half-sages. Mu Honglian smiled and said, "It seems like two planes are having a fight. Let's go and watch the show." "No, no, no." Mu Changhong hurriedly dissuaded her. "Father just came out for a walk. Don't watch the show." "Father, let's go." Under Mu Honglian's forceful tug, he had no choice but to fly over. Then, he saw nearly 100 people standing in the distance, glaring at each other angrily. It was as if they were about to fight at any moment. Mu Changhong only took a casual glance and found that there were at least 40 to 50 people on both sides who were stronger than him. He thought to himself in fear, the plain battlefield is too scary. Huff, huff. Huff, huff, huff. The powerhouses from the two planes released their cultivation bases one after another, and the surrounding atmosphere became oppressive. However, just as they were about to attack, they inadvertently saw Mu Honglian and Mu Changhong. Their expressions changed drastically. Oh no, they are from the falling star continent. Swish! 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 In an instant, nearly 100 people from both planes disappeared without a trace. Mu Changhong stood there dumbfounded. After a while, he said in disbelief, "Daughter, they were scared away by us? Yes. Mu Honglian said bitterly, they were all scared away. What happened to Mu Changhong was also happening in other places. City Lord Han and the others spent money to wear the Sect of All Times uniform and flew carefully outside the stronghold. Once they encountered a martial artist, the other party would be scared away before they could even run. You might not believe it, but I just went out for a walk and arrived at the Scarlet Sea Continent's stronghold. I thought I was going to die, but they ran faster than me. Yes. Because I encountered it too. Many people spent money to buy the Sect of All Times uniform and walked around in it. Only then did they believe Jun Changxiao's words. These 1,000 natural spirit stones didn't buy clothes. They bought a protective talisman. City Lord Han exclaimed. The martial artists who were originally a little conflicted heard what they said. After thinking about it, they all bought the Sect of All Times uniform and went out to test it. Indeed, it was true. At that moment, the experts from the Falling Star continent were completely stunned. What did Jun Changxiao and his Sect of All Times do on the battlefield to make the experts from various planes look at the uniform like a mouse seeing a cat? Chapter 978. The Falling Star continent's martial artists were already dumbfounded when the stronghold reached the size of a town. However, when they put on the Sect of All Times uniform, they were like mice that saw a cat. They were so confused that they didn't know where they were. If one were to describe their feelings at that time, it would be as if they were in a dream. If it was a dream, then they would keep doing it. Everyone. On the main peak, Jun Changxiao said loudly, our Falling Star continent's stronghold has reached the size of a town. You can leave at any time now. All the powerful martial artists, after learning about the dimensional battlefield, they didn't eat or drink for the past few years. They even made arrangements for their funerals. In the end, coming here was like going on an excursion. They didn't have any experience at all. Especially City Lord Han. He even prepared his coffin. Of course. Jun Changxiao added, every time you kill an enemy of the same level from another dimension, you will receive 10 merit points. After reaching a certain point, you can buy resources from the merit store. You can also choose to stay here. Everyone was stunned. They didn't care about the merit store. What they cared about was the 10 merit points for killing an enemy of the same level. Then, Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han said solemnly, you only get merit points for killing people? That's right. Jun Changxiao nodded. The corners of City Lord Han's mouth twitched violently. Yesterday, the old voice said that Sect Master Jun had 63,000 merit points. Could it be? He paused for a moment before continuing with great difficulty, you killed 6,300 people? This sentence was also what all the powerful martial artists were thinking. So, they all pricked up their ears. Of course. They definitely had doubts in their hearts. 6,300 people, and all of them were at least emperors. Was this something a human could do? No, Jun Changxiao said. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. City Lord Han said, if that's the case, why did Jun Patriarch have so many merit points? Because. Jun Changxiao pondered for a moment before explaining, this Jun killed more than 20,000 people, and many of them were yellow characters. Later on, I killed until I went crazy and didn't give any merit points. Otherwise, I would have received at least 200,000. This expression, this tone, it fully demonstrated what it meant to be calm and easy to act cool. The various experts who had just calmed down suddenly widened their eyes. This guy didn't kill more than 6,000, but more than 20,000. Heavens, could he be any more ridiculous? Castellan Han asked in disbelief, killed 20,000 people? Let's not talk about the past, Jun Changxiao said. The system, you're the one who suggested it, yet you're pretending to be low-key. Unless they saw it with their own eyes, no one would easily believe what Jun Changxiao said. After all, killing 20,000 people was beyond their imagination. Of course. Go Sheng would not explain in detail. After all, it would seem a little deliberate to show off like this. It was not in line with his low-key, luxurious, and cultured character. Everyone. Jun Changshao said, there are many opportunities on the battlefield. They will appear every once in a while. If you want to try your luck, you can choose to stay. Opportunity. Many experts were tempted. Although there were many experts in the planar battlefield, if he could obtain good martial arts items, it would definitely be very good. Things like fortuitous encounters were truly filled with magic. June Patriarch. Castellan Han smiled and said, since we're here, we'll definitely stay for a while. Anyway, there was no danger in the stronghold. If they didn't stay for a few more days, how could they be worthy of the 101,000 natural spirit stones that died? The bronze gate is above the main peak. You can leave whenever you want. June will be busy first. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and returned to the main hall. The various experts dispersed one after another. Some cultivated or enjoyed the scenery in the stronghold. Some went out to play. They were all here for a group trip. Inside the main peak, Jun Changshao sat down and took out the 3 experience talismans given by the side mission of eradicating ghosts on the battlefield. He murmured, although it doesn't have much effect, it's still better than nothing. Paw! 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 The 3 experience talismans were all crushed. His strength increased slightly, but it was not very obvious. Sigh. Jun Changshao was speechless. When can I break through to Wusheng? In the past, there was still the 1st to 9th stage and the peak to determine when the epic mission could be triggered. Now that he had entered the half-step Wusheng, there was no corresponding division. He had no idea what the upper limit of the experience talisman was. The system said, the half-step Wusheng can control the power of space. In my opinion, the host needs to comprehend this ability to a certain extent before he can enter the Wusheng. Ding. The host has reached the upper limit of the half-step Wusheng. Requirement met. Epic mission activated. Ding. The host has reached the upper limit of the half-step Sword Saint. Requirement met. Epic mission activated. A prompt sounded in his ears, and the system, which had been speaking with fervor and assurance, suddenly changed the topic and said, sure enough, I guessed right. Congratulations, host, you have comprehended the Space Force. You guessed right my ass. Jun Changshao was too lazy to pay attention to this guy. He hurriedly opened the mission interface and clicked on the first mission epic mission, 9th, mission details. As the master of the Falling Star Continent stronghold, the host needs to be in the position and make decisions. Please expand the stronghold to the size of a city within half a year. Mission failure. The Falling Star Continent stronghold is not expanded to the size of a city within the specified time. Mission reward. Damn. Jun Changshao broke down. Expand to the size of a city within half a year. This mission is a bit fucked up. After the stronghold reached the size of a city, he decided to focus on the sect. This was just a copy for the disciples to cultivate. Now that it was related to the epic mission of suppressing one's realm, he could only focus on the battlefield again. However, Jun Changshao was quite pleased. With the treasure detector, expanding to the size of a city within half a year should not be a problem. As he said that, he clicked on another mission. Epic Mission, 10th. Mission details. The host, please declare war on a certain plane as the master of the stronghold within 1 year and lead the Falling Star Continent martial artists to achieve the final victory in the slaughtering Azura field. Mission failure. The host does not declare war within the specified time, the plane does not accept the challenge within the specified time, or the host is defeated in the slaughtering Azura field. Mission reward. Jun Changshao was speechless. Both epic missions are related to the plane battlefield. This is forcing me to not focus on the development of the sect. The system said, the host can choose not to do it. Scram. Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair and said, develop the stronghold first, then go and declare war on other planes. Sure 9's mission was still acceptable to him, but Sure 10's mission was a bit fucked up. Not only did he have to declare war within a year, but the plane also had to accept the challenge. Hard to retract blade had killed tens of thousands of people and directly shocked the major planes on the battlefield. If he issued a challenge to them, those with a bit of sanity would definitely reject it. If no plane accepted the challenge within a year, the mission would be considered a failure, and he would definitely be stuck in the realm for a long time. Damn it. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and said, "This is a bit troublesome, a bit tricky." Chapter 979. Falling Star Continent. At this moment, the atmosphere was unprecedentedly solemn. It had been 2 days since the 2,000 experts entered the dimensional battlefield. No one knew what was going on inside. The high priest sat cross-legged on the altar and prayed fervently, hoping that the people who entered would survive and not be bullied by the other dimensions. In reality, City Lord Han was currently on the battlefield, watching the experts fight from the furthest distance. Sometimes he would clap and cheer, sometimes he would exclaim at their strength. Then, why did they have to fight from the furthest distance? Because as soon as they got close and were discovered by the two dimensions, they would definitely not be able to fight and would have to escape as fast as possible. The current situation was that as long as the warriors of the other dimensions saw the warriors of the falling star continent, they would definitely run faster than rabbits. When they realized that there seemed to be more warriors than before, they would realize that they were invading on a large scale. All of a sudden, all the major dimensions became nervous. The Sect of all times was still illegal, so they were a little afraid. Now that the entire continent could send people in as they pleased, it would probably cause a new round of bloodshed. City Lord. In the main hall of the Nine Heavens continent's stronghold, an elder reported, "The investigation has been completed. 2,000 warriors from the falling star continent have entered." As expected. Mo Shangxing said, "The warriors of this dimension can enter normally." How strong are they? A few Earth characters, a few dozen Xian characters, and the rest are all Huang characters. So weak? An elder beside him said in shock. Mo Shangxing shook his head and said seriously, "The patriarch of the Sect of all times also looks very weak. Can you imagine that he could kill tens of thousands of people?" The elder was silent. Killing tens of thousands of people in a short period of time, going from a level 3 bounty to a super bounty, and even triggering a lightning tribulation. This was something that absolutely could not be imagined. Mo Shangxing said seriously, "The Sect of all times is just a sect of the falling star continent. Now that they are invading on a large scale, their strength should not be underestimated." Under the influence of Jun Gosheng's uncertainty, he was already walking on the ancient path under the dusk, chasing after his lost intelligence. City Lord. At this moment, another subordinate came in and reported, according to the information sent from the front line, the martial artists of the falling star continent often go out in groups of 3 to 5, to have fun. Mo Shangxing was not surprised, and said, "Only those with true strength would treat the battlefield as a place to play." He paused for a moment before continuing, "Pass down my orders. As long as we see anyone from the falling star continent, we should avoid them as much as possible. Do not provoke them no matter what." Yes. Several elders hurriedly passed down the order. The other first-tier material planes had also learned that 2,000 cultivators from the Starfall continent had entered the Starfall continent, so they all issued a "do not offend" policy. As for the Scarlet Sea continent and Lingyun continent, all of them were hiding in their strongholds at this moment, praying that the other party wouldn't target them and wouldn't endlessly come looking for trouble. The two planes that had always liked to train newcomers were completely beaten up by Jun Changshao. If the upper realm allowed it, they would have moved their strongholds away as soon as possible. True love life. Stay away from the falling star continent. Yuan Gongzi. Forbidden grounds. In the main hall of the Demon Emperor's Gate, an elder pulled a long face and said, "Are we still not going to act? The various major sects have sent out many top powerhouses. If we suddenly attack at this time, we will definitely catch them off guard." Another elder said. Yuan Gongzi said, "There's no rush, wait a little longer." He did not immediately make a move because the 2,000 powerhouses had entered the battlefield to die, igniting the blood of the martial artists on the continent. If he made a move at this time, it might arouse public anger and encounter greater resistance. The Demon Emperor's Gate was only against the famous righteous sects, not against the entire continent. Not only were there sects in the Falling Star continent, there were also many large families and rogue cultivators. Their strength could not be ignored. Moreover, Yuan Gongzi was very worried about Jun Changshao. Although this guy did not participate, who knew if he would suddenly surround the sects to extort money after the war with the famous righteous sects? For now, if the Demon Emperor's Gate made a move, Jun Changshao might really come to extort money. After all, it was an ATM, sect of all times. Jun Changshao took the time to come back, and asked Li Luoqiu about the recent news in the martial arts world. After knowing that there was still no movement from the Demon Emperor's Gate after 2 days of walking, he asked in confusion, "Such a good opportunity, why haven't they made a move yet?" Patriarch Li Luoqiu said, "Xiaomu sent news that he has been promoted to Taishan Shengzong's inner disciple." Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao smiled in satisfaction. For a top sect like Taishan Shengzong, only by becoming an inner disciple would one be considered to have truly integrated into it. Only then would one have the chance to obtain more information and information. Xiaomu also said that Taishan Shengzong is preparing to organize a group of inner sect genius disciples to enter the Perfect Spirit Defense Pagoda to cultivate in seclusion. He asked Patriarch if he wanted to sign up. Li Luoqiu said, "Perfect Spirit Defense Pagoda?" Jun Changshao asked, "What is that?" Li Luoqiu said, "This is a cultivation place built by the first patriarch of Taishan Shengzong. It is similar to my sect's training pagoda, and it contains a majestic amount of spirit energy, allowing warriors to quickly increase their cultivation." Jun Changshao rubbed his nose, and said, "I never thought that there would be a cultivation place similar to the training pagoda." Nonsense. The system said, "After all, we have been on the continent for nearly 10,000 years, how can we not have some foundation?" Jun Changshao said, "Tell Su Xiaoma, if the Perfect Spirit Defense Pagoda can quickly increase his cultivation, he can sign up." Yes. Li Luoqiu used telepathy to pass the message to Su Xiaoma in an extremely short amount of time. He gently put down his chopsticks, and said seriously, "Sister Xia, I want to accompany you into the Perfect Spirit Defense Pagoda." Xia Shuiyun was startled, and said in a low voice, "Who wants you to accompany me?" "If you want to enter the Perfect Spirit Defense Pagoda, you must first pass the lava cave test. Can you do it?" "Sister Xia." Su Xiaoma leaned his head over, and said in her ear, "No matter what, do not question a man's ability." "Why?" "Because, a man can, not can." I'm going to die, I'm going to die." In an area shrouded in flames, Su Xiaoma stuck out his tongue and frantically fled, with dozens of fireballs chasing after him. Xia Shuiyun, who came to the lava cave test with him, saw this, and black lines appeared on her forehead. This is called ability. Boom! Boom! In the cave, more and more fireballs appeared. The two of them would occasionally choose to dodge, and occasionally choose to work together to break through. Although the situation was still dangerous, their tacit understanding and cooperation were constantly improving. 2 hours later, the door to the outside world opened, and Su Xiaoma walked out with trembling legs, holding onto the wall. Then, he sat on the ground, and said with a collapsed expression, "This lava cave is simply hell." Xia Shuiyun indifferently said, "The Perfect Spirit Defense Pagoda is even more terrifying than this place. If you can't do it, then quickly leave." "I can do it," Su Xiaoma seriously said. He really could do it, but in order to not expose his cultivation as a rank 9 martial king, he could only appear very miserable in front of this woman. After a short rest, the two of them returned to their residence. However, when Su Xiaoma arrived at his courtyard, he saw a young man with a cold face leaning against a tree in the distance. "So," he said, "Senior brother, are you waiting for me?" Xia Shuiyun also noticed. She stopped in front of the door and looked over. Frowning, she said, Gao Yingqing. That man lightly raised his head, and a trace of coldness flashed through his eyes. He said, Senior Sister Fong warned you not to get close to Sister Xia. Su Xiaoma scratched his head and said, I forgot. Forgot? Gao Yingqing coldly smiled and said, Go to the martial arts practice field, senior brother will teach you a lesson. Chapter 980. Go to the training field? Su Xiaoma said, Senior brother, are you challenging me? That's right. Gao Yingqing said indifferently. Don't go to the training field. Su Xiaoma said with a smile, according to the rules of the inner sect, disciples can spar as they wish. Let's spar here. There are many people there. Gao Yingqing said. It seems that he wants to humiliate me in front of the Taishan Shengzong disciples. This, Su Xiaoma fell into deep thought. Xia Shuiyun walked over and said, Senior brother Gao, is it appropriate for you, a martial king, to challenge junior brother Su who has just been promoted to the inner sect? Junior sister Xia. Gao Yingqing said with a smile, I'm only sparring with junior brother Su. If he's afraid, he can refuse. Xia Shuiyun looked at Su Xiaoma, obviously telling him not to accept the challenge. Senior brother Gao, right? Su Xiaoma cupped his hands and said, Junior brother accepts your challenge. Xia Shui's brows furrowed even tighter. Senior sister. Su Xiaoma walked over and gave her an extremely masculine back, saying, I can do it. Xia Shuiyun stood where she was as if she'd been struck by lightning. She only recovered from her shock when she saw that fellow follow Gao Yingqing to the martial practice grounds. She thought to herself in disbelief, he used a sound transmission technique? That's right. The last two sentences were sent through sound transmission technique. Why did the Taishan Shengzong suddenly organize the inner sect disciples to enter the perfect spirit defense tower? Because the sect's experts entering the plain battlefield weakened their overall strength. Moreover, they had to send more people in later, so they had to train the younger generation as soon as possible. The perfect spirit defense tower was the cultivation holy land of the Taishan Shengzong. There were various formations inside, but the opening condition was to burn a large number of spirit stones, so it would not be opened unless there were special circumstances. To put it bluntly, this kind of training ground gathered a large number of resources and provided a channel for a small number of people to become stronger. The worst-case scenario for the 10 elders to enter the planar battlefield was that they wouldn't be able to return. Thus, after a unanimous discussion, the upper echelons decided to spend a large amount of resources to nurture outstanding inner disciples in the shortest time possible. Junior brother Su. Sun Yingquan once said, I heard my father say that the disciples chosen to enter the Spirit Defense Pagoda are equivalent to candidates for the position of elder. Elder preparation candidate? Su Xiaoma suddenly acted. There were lineal disciples above the inner sect, but he knew that with the aptitude he had shown, he definitely could not be compared to disciples with divine spiritual roots or special constitutions. Instead of that, he might as well be an elder, even if he had the least power. As long as the patriarch agrees to let me register and release my cultivation to the level of a martial king, it shouldn't be a problem, Su Xiaoma thought to himself. During this period of time, he had been pretending to be working hard on his cultivation. Furthermore, he often followed Xia Shuiyun to complete high-level missions and had accumulated quite a lot of merit points. Transitioning from a martial ancestor to a martial king should not be too shocking. Moreover, he also had an awesome master. Even if it aroused the suspicion of the higher-ups, they would only guess that he was deliberately hiding his cultivation. After careful consideration, Su Xiaoma decided that as long as the patriarch agreed to let him register, he would release his cultivation to Martial King and fight for one of the 20 spots in the Spirit Defense Pagoda. Jun Changshao agreed. Therefore, in the face of Gao Yingqing's challenge, Su Xiaoma used the sound transmission technique that only martial kings could use. He used practical actions to tell Xia Shuiyun that he was really good. Boom! Boom! On the martial arts practice field, spiritual energy spread out. Oh my god! This is impossible. Senior brother Gao is a martial king, and Su Jintang is only at the level of Wuzong. How can he fight back and forth with him? The inner sect disciples stood outside the martial arts practice field and watched Su Xiaoma fight with Gao Yingqing with ease. Their hearts were immediately filled with shock. 9 spirit seal fists. 9 extremely explosive fist prints pressed down from the left and right. Boom! 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 Gao Yingqing formed a wall of air in front of him, but it was difficult for him to withstand the explosive fist prints. In the end, he was forced to retreat until he stabilized at the edge. He said in disbelief, You are, Shua. At this moment, Su Xiaoma had already rushed in front of him. Boom! A left hook directly hit his face, and he was forced to retreat. Not only was there a fist print on his face, but a few teeth also flew out. The Taixuan Xingzong disciples were dumbfounded. Senior brother Gao was actually suppressed by that guy. Shua! Su Xiaoma used the movement technique of the outer sect disciples to the extreme and rushed in front of Gao Yingqing again. His cold eyes were full of disdain and contempt. Kid! I am the 3rd disciple of the sect of all times. Although my strength is not as monstrous as the eldest senior sister and Yixingchen, I am not someone that trash like you dares to provoke. Boom! Another heavy punch was thrown, and Gao Yingqing's feet left the ground. Then, he flew out in front of everyone and landed heavily outside the martial arts practice field. Senior brother. Su Xiaoma cupped his fists and said, Thank you for letting me win. Then, he looked at the dazed woman in the distance and revealed a sneaky smile. He said telepathically, Sister Xia, can I do it? Xia Shuiyun did not speak. Her heart was in turmoil. It turned out that this guy had already broken through to the martial king level and had mastered the inner sect martial arts to the extreme. Beating Gao Yingqing was like playing with him. The news of Su Xiaoma's swift and decisive victory over Gao Yingqing spread through the inner sect. The elders also knew about it and were discussing it at the regular meeting. This kid's improvement speed is very fast. It's really surprising. Being able to use 9 fist prints at the same time means that the kid has mastered the spirit seal 9 fists. Not simple, not simple. To be accepted as a disciple by a half-saint of sword martial arts, he must be extraordinary. I think that Jintang should be given a spot in the perfect spirit pagoda. Elder son, there are only 20 spots. We must strictly screen them. Someone objected, not because he doubted Su Xiaoma, but because he did not want to make a hasty decision. How about this? The 3rd elder, who had been silent all this time, said, Find a time to let Su Jintang spar with the other inner sect disciples. If he can defeat them one by one, we can consider giving him a spot, Sister Xia. In the courtyard, Su Xiaoma smiled and said, Are you angry? No. Xia Shuiyun's face was covered with frost. She had always thought that the guy whose cultivation was lower than hers had suddenly become a martial king. She would definitely be unhappy that he had hidden his cultivation and deliberately acted in a sorry state in the lava cave. Sister Xia. Su Xiaoma said solemnly, Thank you for your help during this period of time. It allowed me to break through to Martial King in just a few months. Xia Shuiyun looked at him suspiciously and said, You broke through to Martial King in just a few months? Do you think I believe that? Su Xiaoma scratched his head and said, To be honest, I already had a cultivation of 7th grade Wuzong. With the help of the sect's spiritual array and resources, I was able to smoothly break through to Martial King. So that's how it was. Xia Shuiyun understood. Then, she pointed to the door and said, Get out. I want to rest. Okay. Su Xiaoma got up but did not leave. Instead, he took 2 steps forward and kept a close distance with her. He said, My cultivation is higher than yours now. I should be worthy of you, right? Don't say that. He clutched his chest and pretended to be in pain. He said, I'll be very sad. Xia Shuiyun avoided his gaze and then turned around. Suddenly, a pair of large hands reached over and hugged her. Su Xiaoma's gentle voice sounded in her ear, "From today onwards, I will pursue you." Paw! On a mountain peak, Su Xiaoma looked at the sky with his hands behind his back and thought, "Patriarch, this disciple will enter the 10 complete spirit pagoda. In the future, there will be a place for me in the elder group." The camera slowly turned to the other side of his face. The bright red palm print was exceptionally eye-catching. Chapter 981. Jun Changshao, who was in the sect of all times, received the news from Su Xiaoma and expressed his understanding of him releasing his martial king cultivation. Li Luoqiu said, "If this continues, Xiaomu might become an elder." "That depends on his own ability," Jun Changshao said. "I'll leave the sect's internal affairs to you for now. I'll go to the dimensional battlefield." "Okay." Li Luoqiu was already used to it. Jun Changshao entered the Falling Star Continent's stronghold and began to think about how to develop it to the size of a city in half a year. "I can only continue to use the treasure detector to search for opportunities. This was the fastest way. After all, finding one could increase the size by 10,000 square meters." "Qingyang," Jun Changshao said, "I've already contacted the Lingyuan continent. They'll send people to spar in a few days. You'll be in charge of organizing the disciples." It was difficult to find people to fight on the battlefield. They could only invite planes that were gradually building friendly relations for the disciples to spar. After making the arrangements, Jun Changshao flew out of the stronghold and activated the treasure detector. The light spots on the compass were scattered. Obviously, he had found almost all of them. The dimensional battlefield is so big. Are there only so many hidden opportunities? The system, with this kind of cheat-like treasure detector, even if tens of thousands of them were put in, they wouldn't be able to withstand your endless search. Boom! In a certain area, the formation in the depths of space was cracked. A stone door opened. Jun Changshao went in and flew out after a while. The opportunity hidden inside was a wordless stone tablet. Although he didn't know what it was used for, judging from the material, it should be a rare ore. It might be useful in the future. In fact, when he was searching for opportunities, he encountered many similar opportunities that he didn't know how to use. However, he didn't want to return empty-handed, so he took all of them. There are 2 more in this area. Jun Changshao glanced at the location of the treasure detector and flew over. For a few days, many fortuitous encounters were destroyed one after another. The martial artists living on the floating mountain were stunned. Every time they woke up, they would find that the stronghold had expanded a lot compared to yesterday. How did he do it? Could it be that Jun Patriarch is killing a lot of people every day? They only knew that increasing the size of the stronghold required killing people. How many people would it take to expand the stronghold by so much? "Big brother, I'm a little nervous." In the depths of a valley on the battlefield, a cultivator hiding in the shadows said in a trembling voice. More than a dozen cultivators stood beside him. Judging from their attire, they should be from the same plane. "Paw!" The middle-aged man standing at the front slapped the head of the person who spoke and reprimanded, "Look at you. Big brother, we didn't get permission to sneak into the planar battlefield. If they find out, we'll definitely be in trouble." Someone transmitted. "Wealth comes from danger. As long as we can find the opportunity discovered by our ancestors, everything will be worth it." The martial artist called Big Brother said seriously. They came from the Green Phoenix continent. Their ancestors had once entered the planar battlefield and found an opportunity through some means. However, they were unable to find it, so they passed it down to their descendants. Every 5 years, the Green Phoenix continent would send a force to enter. If other cultivators wanted to enter, they had to be approved. Otherwise, no one was allowed to enter without permission. The force that this group of cultivators belonged to would take a few decades, so they couldn't wait. They could only sneak in, hoping to find the opportunity discovered by their ancestors to strengthen themselves. "Big brother." At this moment, a martial artist standing guard outside the valley transmitted his voice. a few martial artists from other existential planes are flying over. How strong are they? Looks like they're only at the yellow level. At this moment, several streaks of light flew over from afar. They then hovered above the valley and looked down at the group of green phoenix continent cultivators. Have we been discovered? The leader sneered and waved his hand to signal his companions to charge. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, more than a dozen cultivators from the green phoenix continent flew up and surrounded the four cultivators. Junior brother Yi, we're in trouble. Trash! The ones who spoke were Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingchen. The other two were He Wudi and the Purple King. While Jun Changshao was looking for opportunities, they weren't idle either. They wandered around the battlefield aimlessly, hoping to find opponents to fight. The leader of the Green Phoenix Continent group flew up and said calmly, daring to fly around so unscrupulously, the four of you are quite bold. Xiao Ziji said, what do you mean by surrounding us? The leader smiled coldly and said, take our lives. Take our lives? The Purple King crossed his arms and said proudly, are you serious? After wandering around the battlefield for so long, all the cultivators they encountered had fled like rats. Now, they were blocked and even wanted to take their lives. It was really a little unexpected. Hall Master Z. Xiao Ziji said excitedly, leave these people to us. It was rare to encounter cultivators who dared to challenge them. They had to fight properly. Clang! Yi Xingchen did not say much as he took out his true yang sword and attacked first. His eyes were filled with disdain from beginning to end. Kill them. The leader waved his hand and said. Apart from the purple-haired guy who had some ability, the other three were at most Huang level. Killing them would be easy. While they were thinking, Yi Xingchen's cold sword Qi slashed down and took away the head of a green phoenix continent cultivator. When the head and body fell to the ground, the leader and his companions were all dumbfounded. Die, trash! Yi Xingchen's wrist turned and the Ling Jian Divine Arts quick-step formula was used. Sword shadows filled the sky and shocked the green phoenix continent cultivators. Shwa! 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 Clang! The true yang sword returned to its sheath and the three cultivators in front were cut into pieces. Hoo-hoo! At this moment, the leader burst out with energy and attacked from the side. The strength of a Xian-level cultivator was revealed. He Wudi rushed over and punched out with his fists, creating a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. In an instant, he broke the murderous aura. Seeing this, Yi Xingchen frowned. This guy surnamed he was even stronger than before. If he wanted to surpass him, it would probably take a very long time. Boom! Boom! On the other side, Xiao Ziji burst out with spiritual energy and fought with two Huang-level cultivators. Because his body was strong, he was not afraid of the opponent's attack and rushed over. Big brother, these people are a bit strong. Let's retreat. Retreat! The leader saw that the situation was not good and hurriedly left with his companions. But just as he was about to fly out, a wall appeared and sealed the area. Everyone! Xiao Zuiji shook his head and said with a smile, how can you leave without having a good fight with us? The corners of the cultivators' mouths twitched violently. At that moment, they looked at these people again and found that their bodies had all turned black. Their eyes were red, like demons from hell. Half an hour later, the leader and more than 10 Qing-1 cultivators fell to the ground in pain. As for the space rings on their fingers and waist, they were all licked away by Xiao Ziji and the others. Big brother, they took the things away. How are we going to find the opportunity? Find my ass. It's good enough that we're still alive, Starfall Continent's stronghold. Jun Changshao returned with two fortuitous encounters. Just as he sat on the chair in the main hall, Xiao Ziji came to see him with a yellowed sheepskin scroll and said, Patriarch, is this a treasure map? Go Sheng waved his hand and summoned the sheepskin scroll. He found that it had a very complicated terrain. Yes. It's a treasure map. Chapter 982. Nowadays, there are still people who draw treasures on sheepskin scrolls. How vulgar. Jun Changshao held the treasure map, his face full of disdain. Not to mention whether or not there were treasures hidden, at least use some advanced technology, such as setting up a small formation or something. In the end, it was just a piece of sheepskin. He, who had a treasure detector, did not care about such things at all. After all, as long as he wanted to find, he could find a lot at any time. The system said, this item is quite old. Maybe there really is something good hidden in it. Is that so? Jun Changshao carefully examined it and found that the outline was very messy, so he shook his head and said, maybe someone was bored and just randomly drew it. Patriarch. Li Qingyang said, could there be a secret hidden in this sheepskin scroll? A secret hidden? Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, very likely. Qingyang, go get a basin of water. Yes. Li Qingyang fetched a basin of water. Shwa. Jun Changshao waved his hand and threw the sheepskin scroll into the water to soak, and said, there may be a layer inside, which will appear when it comes in contact with water. Li Qingyang suddenly understood and said, Patriarch is wise. After a quarter of an hour, Jun Changshao took out the sheepskin scroll and put it on the table. The outline on it was completely blurred. Patriarch. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched slightly, there is no layer inside, the terrain drawn with the brush was soaked and disappeared. Interesting. Jun Changshao kept calm and said, since water cannot find the secret, we can only use fire. Whoosh! He raised his right hand and a flame appeared. Jun Changshao took the sheepskin scroll with his other hand and explained, Qingyang, if I am not wrong, as long as we use fire to heat it a little, a new pattern will appear. Li Qingyang was full of admiration. It was the first time he saw using fire and water to find the secret, so he learned from the patriarch. Shwa! Jun Changshao placed the parchment over. There really was a change. The ancient goatskin scroll was soon reduced to ashes by the flames. Patriarch. Li Qingyang widened his eyes and said, the sheepskin scroll was burned. Boom! Jun Changshao slammed his palms on the table and roared in his heart, the TV dramas are all lies. In order to find the mystery hidden within, a very old sheepskin scroll was burned just like that. It could be said that it was even more unjust than Do-yi. It wasn't a big problem. Jun Gosheng had already memorized the terrain in his mind. Even with his eyes wide open, he could still remember the topography. Of course. He didn't take it seriously. After all, with a treasure-searching tool in hand, there was no need to worry about not being able to find any fortuitous encounters in the planar battlefield. Why would he care about a pretentious treasure map? The next day, the Spirit Origin continent had sent dozens of warriors for a friendly visit. The two sides had a friendly competition outside the stronghold and reached a consensus on some issues. Although the planar battlefield was mainly about killing, having a friend was definitely better than having many enemies. Jun Changshao even began to consider whether he should collude with the Spirit Origin continent, deliberately declare war, and then go to the slaughtering Azura field to put on a show. Dear participant, when two planes enter the slaughtering Azura field, the winner must be determined through a real fight. If you cheat, you will be punished by the upper realm, the female system reminded. Jun Changshao said, I'm just thinking about it. Bullshit. The system said, if it could really be played like that, the host wouldn't just think about it. Although the female system's voice was sweet, it was still the one who understood Jun Changshao the most, so it was irreplaceable. The disciples fought with the Spirit Origin continent warriors. Although it wasn't a life-and-death battle, they still benefited a lot. Therefore, the two sides decided to have friendly competitions every once in a while. To put it bluntly, Jun Changshao paid spirit stones and came from the Spirit Origin continent to be a professional sparring partner for the disciples of the sect of all times. One received experience, and the other received resources. Both sides were mutually beneficial. Su Xiaoma, who was in Taixuan Shenzong, was also working hard to cultivate. Not long ago, he defeated a few inner disciples one after another and obtained a spot to enter the perfect spirit defense tower. This kind of cultivation holy land of a top sect was very good. Not only was there a sufficient supply of spiritual energy, but there were also various methods to improve one's strength. Although Su Xiaoma's realm was gradually being pulled apart by Li Qingyang and the others, being in the perfect spirit defense tower and with the large amount of natural spirit stones given by the Patriarch, the speed of improvement might not be slow. More importantly, there were different levels of martial arts experience in each level of the tower. If this was used well, breaking through to the Emperor level should not be a problem. Patriarch Su Xiaoma, who was sitting cross-legged on the 6th level, thought to himself, I will continue to cultivate in seclusion here until I break through to Wu Huang. Jun Changshao rarely asked about the matter of his third disciple being a spy. Now that he had come this far, he would have to rely on himself for the rest of the journey. Continue to look for opportunities. The next day, he took out the treasure hunting device again. After it was activated, only 3 light spots appeared on it. It could be seen that the good things in the fixed area were almost all taken by him. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head, and then flew according to the direction pointed. On the way to a place of opportunity, he suddenly stopped, looked at the crisscrossing mountain forest in front of him, and whispered, it's a bit familiar. Right. He slapped his forehead and said, it's a bit similar to the terrain drawn on the sheepskin scroll. Jun Changshao's mind transformed into the strange terrain that he had memorized before, and then it gradually merged with the area in front of him. Finally, he said in surprise, it's not a bit similar, it's exactly the same. That's not right. He looked down at the treasure hunting device and wondered, there are obviously no opportunities in this area. The system said, host, have you found a problem? What problem? Although the treasure hunting device can search for opportunities, the equipment and herbs found, according to the division of the battlefield, are all of the earth level. You mean that the treasure hunting device can only search for the earth level, but it can't search for opportunities of a higher level? Yes. There is an opportunity in the sheepskin scroll, and this opportunity has reached the heaven level, so the treasure hunting device can't capture it? Yes. Talking to smart people was not tiring at all. Jun Changshao said with joy, could it be that in this seemingly ordinary forest, there is a higher level of opportunity hidden? While speaking, he hurriedly closed his eyes and carefully browsed the terrain pattern that he had memorized, and he wanted to slap himself in the face. He had to use fire and water to find the mystery, and in the end, the sheepskin scroll was burned. Something strange. After thinking over and over again, Jun Changshao found the terrain in his memory. Although the sketch terrain was messy, it was more like a ferocious beast with its mouth wide open, swallowing a big round ball. A round ball. Jun Changshao suddenly opened his eyes, and his spiritual thoughts spread out wildly. Soon, he found an independent forest area in the distance outside the mountain forest. Looking down from above, it just happened to be in the shape of a round ball. Could it be that this is the mystery in the sheepskin scroll? Swoosh! Jun Changshao flew over and then landed in the forest. He walked back and forth a few times but did not find anything special, so he was puzzled and asked, why is there nothing? Host, did you notice that the color of the sheepskin scroll is a little dark? The system said. Jun Changshao said, aren't all things with ages like this, such as ancient books that have turned yellow? The system said, maybe it was added by someone. Added by someone? Jun Changshao rubbed his chin, then suddenly thought of something and said, could it be that it represents the dusk period? It's possible. Then let's wait until dusk. Jun Changshao was not in a hurry to leave, and found a place to sit down. Apart from night time, the weather in the dimensional battlefield was dusk, but this did not mean that there was no dusk period. A few hours later. The sky was obviously darker than before, indicating that night was coming. Sitting in the forest, Jun Changshao kept releasing his spiritual thoughts, but in the end, he still did not find anything, so he smiled bitterly and said, maybe someone passed by here and pretended to be mysterious and casually drew a picture. What a waste of time. Swoosh! Jun Changshao stood up, but just as he took a step, the bottom of his feet suddenly flashed, and the entire periphery of the forest was suddenly protruded, enveloping him in a barrier. What the hell? Buzz 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 buzz. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly, and a stone door engraved with words gradually appeared. Go Sheng, who had experienced all kinds of big scenes, was definitely not surprised, but when he saw the words engraved on both sides of the door, he raised his hand and fiercely slapped himself in the face. What was written? It was written that only by sticking the sheepskin scroll on the door could the restriction be lifted to enter. Chapter 983. Jun Gosheng had to show his disciple how to decipher the secret hidden inside the sheepskin scroll, and now, he lost it. Now, he could only stand in front of the stone door and cry. Am I a bitch? The system added loudly, yes. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed and calmed himself down. Then, he stood in front of the stone door, clenched his fist, and said proudly, without the sheepskin scroll, I can't go in. Naive. Ho ho. Strong spiritual energy gathered in his right fist and punched out with a force of 10,000 pounds. This attack was so strong that even a half-saint might not dare to take it head-on. Boom! Dang dang dang! His right fist punched the stone door, and Jun Changshao was also bounced back. He almost fell to the ground. The system remained absolutely silent. In fact, it wanted to remind the host that the stone door was made of a special material or some kind of hard ore. However, it did not say anything because it was afraid of being slapped in the face. After all, it had happened before. It's a bit hard. Jun Changshao stabilized his body and relaxed his right hand's 5 fingers. He summoned the mechanical wings and activated the attack mode. His fist was instantly covered in steel. Ta! Jun Changshao ran up a few steps and stopped in front of the stone door. He raised his fist and punched at it. Then, he imitated the main character's ability to shout at the beginning of a fight and roared, "Break for me!" Boom, the ground instantly shook. Dang dang dang. Plop. Jun Changshao took a few steps back and fell to the ground. He collapsed and said, "This is too hard. I don't believe it." Red sky flame cut. Boom. Boom. 7 mysterious light break. Boom. Boom. Jun Changshao did not use his fist anymore. Instead, he relied on various martial arts to attack from a distance. As a result, his power was bounced back without leaving a trace. The system finally could not help but say, the stone door's material is extraordinary. The host can't break it with his fist and martial arts. Understood. Jun Changshao stood up and summoned the True Yang set. Then, he held the True Yang sword in his left hand and Jade Dragon Asks the Heavens in his right hand. There was the buff of the armament wings in the front and the buff of the set attributes in the back. Go all out. The system, swoosh. Schwa. Whoosh. Ding. 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 Countless sword shadows appeared, but no matter how fiercely the sword chi bombarded the stone door, it remained unscathed. Plop. An hour later, Jun Gosheng was paralyzed on the ground, panting as he said, "Are there any items in the mall that can reverse time and space? I want to go back to the past to stop my foolish actions." "No," the system replied. Ah! Jun Changshao held his head and roared, "Why should I burn it with fire?" Buzz! After a while, the surrounding light barrier disappeared, and the indestructible stone door disappeared as well. It was already dark outside. The system said, "It seems that this opportunity will only open at dusk." Jun Changshao wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Let's call Hall Master Z and Old Ding over tomorrow. I don't believe that we can't break this stone door." He, who had always been looking for opportunities, had suffered a setback today. The more it was like this, the more his bad temper was triggered. Regardless of whether there was an opportunity behind the stone door, he had to break it. The next day, Jun Changshao brought the Purple King and Ding Xingwang over and activated the light barrier again at dusk. It's this door. Break it. Yes. Ding Xingwang was about to condense his spiritual energy. The Purple King raised his hand and signaled for him to retreat. He said calmly, "Leave it to me." As a higher realm demon king, other than eating Lu Wancher's cooking, he always maintained the demeanor of a powerhouse. Boom! 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 Violent demon chi rippled wildly in the formation. After a while, Hall Master Z was seen lying in the distance, naked and sweating profusely. The stone door was undamaged. Old Ding. Jun Changshao broke down. Go and try. Ding Xingwang's mouth twitched slightly. Even a fierce person like Hall Master Z could not break it open, he definitely could not. Since the Patriarch had said so, he could only walk over and stop in front of the stone door. He began to circulate his spiritual energy and was about to punch it when he suddenly turned his head and said, "Patriarch, this square word seems a little different." Different? Jun Changshao hurried over and immediately realized that the color of the word was a little darker than the other words. If he did not look at it closely, he might not have noticed it even if he used his spiritual sense. Smack! Old Ding raised his finger and pressed it. The square word sunk and the tightly shut stone door suddenly opened from the bottom up. The Patriarch Jun stood rooted to the ground, dumbstruck. The Purple King, who was lying in the distance, picked up a corner of his clothes and covered his face. He thought to himself, they can't see me, no one can see me. Blisters and fire. With fists, martial arts, and weapons. They were all gaudy. Ding Xingwang found the secret at a glance and easily opened the stone door. This was the simplest and most direct way. My handsome face is swollen. Jun Changshao roared in his heart. Patriarch. Ding Xingwang said, do you want to go in? Go in. Jun Changshao stepped in. Since the Purple King and Ding Xingwang were here, they would definitely follow and take a look. On the other side of the stone door was a seemingly bottomless tunnel. As soon as the three of them walked in, they felt a desolate and ancient aura. Patriarch. Ding Xingwang said, in my opinion, there must be an incredible treasure hidden here. As someone who had lived for a long time, Wu Sheng was the most familiar with exploring opportunities. He could tell a thing or two from the environment. Let's hope so. Jun Changshao said while remaining vigilant. This kind of place of opportunity that had not been explored by treasure hunting tools might have a trap. Hall Master Z. Jun Changshao said, you lead the way. Since he had followed them in, he would definitely let the guy with the strongest physical body take the lead. Not long after, the three of them entered a cave abode that was as bright as day. The Purple King, who was walking in front, had bruises on his exposed skin. It was obvious that he had been targeted by a lot of traps in the tunnel. TSK, he said proudly, how can a mere trap hurt me? The camera turned to his back. Arrows were stuck in his back. Jun Changshao could not bear to look at it and looked away. Then, he looked carefully at the cave abode and saw a strange-looking plant growing on a muddy ground in the center. Patriarch. Ding Xingwang said solemnly, this is definitely an extremely high-quality heavenly treasure. Jun Changshao's eyes showed a hint of disappointment. He hoped to find equipment and weapons here because he could immediately strengthen himself. Heavenly treasures were good, but unless he swallowed them to increase his strength, he would need to refine them to show their value. This is, the Purple King said in surprise, pure jade spirit. Chapter 984. Jade Pure Xianling. Jun Changshao said. The Purple King said with a burning gaze, this is a treasure of heaven and earth that only exists in the upper realm. If my beast race eats one, it can increase our cultivation by 1,000 years. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up, what if humans eat it? They will die immediately. The Purple King said. This turn was very sudden. Jun Patriarch did not sit properly and was almost thrown off the carriage. Why did the beast race eat it and increase their cultivation, but humans eat it and die? Because the effect of the medicine was too strong. With the physique of humans that was naturally weaker than beasts, they could not withstand the explosive energy at all. The only outcome was to explode and die. However, the Purple King added, you can combine other medicinal herbs to refine this item. As for what effect it has, that is unknown. This was the wisdom of humans. No matter how strong the treasure was, as long as it was professionally refined, the effect would be even stronger than eating it raw. Purple Craggy hurriedly walked over. Wasn't stealing dragon eggs in the upper realm just listening to rumors that it could increase one's cultivation? Now that the jade pure Xianling in front of him had a real effect, it naturally made him extremely moved. Jun Changshao first used his spiritual sense to envelop the medicinal herbs and put them into the space ring. He said, such a good thing, you can't just eat it casually. The Purple King hugged his head and roared, I'll just take a bite. Come on. Jun Changshao said, with your big mouth, you can even swallow the roots. A treasure of heaven and earth that directly increased one's cultivation was definitely at the heaven level. He wanted to keep it for future preparations. For example, if he could get a semi-sage pill, the Wuxing pill, he might need this medicinal herb. The system was speechless. Why don't the hosts think about the Wuxing pill? After eating it, you can instantly break through to martial emperor, marry a rich and beautiful woman, and walk to the peak of life. Jun Changshao said, if there is, that would be the best system. Since this soil can contain the treasures of heaven and earth from the upper realm, it must be extraordinary. After some thought, Jun Changshao ordered Hall Master Z and Old Ding to poach all of them. After searching the cave for a while, he didn't find anything good, so he went back the way he came until he came out of the tunnel. He stopped in front of the solid stone door and thought to himself, such a durable stone, I can't leave it here. Swish! His spiritual sense spread out and his heart stirred. Whoosh! The solid stone door disappeared into thin air and reappeared in the spatial ring. He succeeded just like that. Jun Changshao had thought that it might be blocked or fail, but he never thought that it would be so easy to install the stone door. The system sighed. When Gosheng went to war, not even a blade of grass grew. Okay. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, go back. The three of them walked out of the forest. Because the opportunity was taken away, the surrounding enchantments had completed their historical mission and completely disappeared. However, even the entrance stone door had been taken away. Snowflakes were fluttering in the air, the northern wind was rustling, and the world was boundless. Back to half an hour ago. When Old Ding opened the stone door and Gosheng brought the two of them in, the flowing light enchantment flashed and formed a rainbow light that pierced through heaven and earth, illuminating the entire dimensional battlefield. A phenomenon has appeared, an opportunity has been born. Such a strong light, the level of the opportunity must be extremely high. When the powerhouses of various dimensions saw the light that pierced through the sky, their eyes lit up. Then, they all flew out of the stronghold and rushed toward the source of the phenomenon. What's that? City Lord Han and the others in the Falling Star Continent stronghold also noticed, and their eyes widened. Gong Sun Haohai said, this is the dimensional opportunity. Opportunity? Everyone's eyes were also burning. Let's go. A powerhouse from a large sect said, let's go and take a look too. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, the top powerhouses of the Falling Star Continent flew out of the stronghold. Not only City Lord Han, but also Mu Changhong and Sidu Haoyun were among them. The battlefield was created by the upper realm, so the opportunities left behind must be very strong. Even if they couldn't obtain them, they could go and watch the show. Second senior brother. Xiao Zuiji said solemnly, the place that Sect leader and Old Ding went to was the place where the anomaly was rising, right? Li Qingyang nodded and said, that's right. Whoosh! 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 In the sky, streaks of light flew at high speed. City Lord Han and the others were deeply shocked when they saw this. The appearance of an opportunity had attracted so many top powerhouses. as expected of the battlefield where the various dimensions gathered. Everyone. Wu Sheng, who was flying at the front, said in a deep voice, "There are too many powerhouses here. We're just here to watch the show. Don't get involved." Understood. The crowd came to a decision. No matter how good the fortuitous encounter was, they could not take part in it. After all, there were half-martial sages flying over from the sky. There was no telling how many half-martial sages would arrive at the scene. If they tried to snatch the fortuitous encounter, they would be courting death. As expected. When the powerhouses of the falling star continent arrived at the source of the light and saw hundreds of half-step saints and even Wuxing floating around, they all gasped in shock. In their own world, the appearance of an opportunity and a few Wusheng were already considered a big scene. But now, there were so many of them gathered on the battlefield. It was definitely a big scene. Martial artists from various dimensions hovered around the flashing light, their eyes burning with passion. This phenomenon was even more intense than the appearance of the egg. Its level must be very high. Speaking of eggs, the crowd couldn't help but think of Jun Changshao. They couldn't help but shiver as they thought of his insane slaughter. Wait! Is that guy here? The powerhouses from various dimensions released their spiritual senses and found City Lord Han and the others. Martial artists from the falling star continent. Oh my god, why are they here too? They want to snatch the opportunity. I'm afraid we can only watch. The martial artists from the falling star continent were shocked by the scene, and the other dimensions were shocked by them. The scene was very awkward. Oh no! City Lord Han's expression changed slightly. Do they think we want to snatch the opportunity? Don't panic, don't panic. Wu Sheng, who came from a large sect, calmed himself down and cupped his hands. Everyone, we've just entered the battlefield and haven't seen the appearance of the opportunity. So, we're only here to watch the show. We won't participate. The other dimension's martial artists were stunned. The falling star continent wasn't participating? Could it be that there were too many good things in this dimension and they didn't care about the opportunity on the battlefield? Thinking of the scene where Jun Changshao took out his sword and swept across the battlefield, everyone immediately understood. Since he had such a powerful weapon, he wouldn't care about anything else. Patriarch. The falling star continent is much stronger than we thought, one of the elders said telepathically. So? The Patriarch said solemnly, we can't afford to offend them. Whoosh! At this moment, the light that pierced through the sky suddenly dissipated, and the array in the forest disappeared into thin air. The opportunity is about to be born. The powerhouses from various dimensions who were experienced in this aspect subconsciously approached and prepared to snatch it at any time. Whoosh! Suddenly, 3 streaks of light appeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The martial artists from various dimensions unleashed their cultivation and were about to suppress the streaks of light that appeared from the forest. In the next second, they came to a sudden halt and their eyes widened. Jun Changshao, who had just walked out of the forest, found that he was surrounded by people. He was puzzled. What's going on? Jun Patriarch? City Lord Han and the others were also stunned. Why are you guys here too? Jun Changshao was even more confused. Patriarch. Gongsun Haohai came from afar and transmitted his voice. There's a phenomenon in the forest that you just came out of. Jun Changshao roughly understood the situation, so he took out the pocket-sized hard-to-keep blade and smiled. The opportunity here has been taken by Jun. If you guys want to snatch it, feel free to come. Jun Patriarch. Goodbye. Jun Patriarch. We'll meet again if fate allows. Jun Patriarch, we'll meet again. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, the experts from the various planes who had gathered in the sky above the forest all disappeared at a speed that would make one gasp in amazement. City Lord Han and the others came to their senses and found that they had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 985. The experts from the various dimensions ran away as fast as they came. By the time the falling star continent cultivators came back to their senses, there was no one in the forest. This, City Lord Han's mouth twitched. These planar battlefield cultivators had been scared away by Jun Changshao. No. To be exact, they had been scared away by Go Sheng's pocket-sized knife. After all, many people were at the scene back then. The scene of him killing people like cutting grass was still vivid in their minds. In the face of absolute power, all greed would be completely suppressed. Living was always more comfortable than dying. They ran away just like that. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "I still want to have a good fight." The Purple King, Ding Xingwang, they knew very well that if the Patriarch really wanted to have a good fight, he would definitely not take out a pocket-sized knife to scare people. A natural phenomenon, the birth of a fortuitous opportunity. Who would have thought that Jun Changshao would walk out from inside and end the bloody storm that was about to unfold before it even started? The falling star continent cultivators were shocked. When they returned, they could not help but secretly guess. That guy scared away the experts from the various dimensions with just one sentence. Could it be that he really killed tens of thousands? That's definitely the case. City Lord Han firmly believed it in his heart. In his opinion, only killing tens of thousands of people could create a terrifying deterrent force. Otherwise, the cultivators from the various dimensions would not panic and run away. This guy, City Lord Han, raised his head and looked at Jun Changshao, who was flying in front of him. He thought to himself, how strong is he exactly? Without the support of equipment, Jun Patriarch was just a half-step sword saint and martial saint. With equipment, it was no problem for him to fight against low-level earth-level experts. As for using the unstoppable knife, it was even more terrifying. Of course. This kind of trump card would not be used at any time. After all, there were not many talismans to open the seal. Falling Star Continent's stronghold. Jun Changshao returned with the Jade Clear Profound Spirit. The stronghold began to expand until it stopped. The area was twice as big as before. Patriarch. Li Qingyang was dumbfounded. What's going on? Jun Changshao said, perhaps the fortuitous encounters brought back have reached the heaven level, and the area given is more than before. Li Qingyang said solemnly, if we expand it a few more times, it won't be a problem to reach the size of a small city. On the falling star continent, the size of a city depended on the area and the total number of residents. The smallest city was as big as 4 or 5 towns. At this moment, the falling star continent stronghold had doubled in size and was now the size of 2 towns. Therefore, it was undoubtedly much closer to the smallest city. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, if we want to play, we'll play with the bigger ones. I don't care about the smaller ones. Patriarch. The corner of Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. It will definitely take a long time to build a stronghold into a large city. Half a year. Jun Changshao said solemnly, it must be achieved. Half a year. Li Qingyang suddenly felt a little dizzy. Jun Changshao also didn't want to focus on the development of the stronghold. However, the Epic Mission 9 was related to it. Moreover, according to the previous completion rate, only by doing better than the original foundation could he obtain more generous rewards. What was the original foundation? To develop the falling star continent stronghold into a city. This was more general because cities were also divided into small, medium, and large. If it was developed into a small city, it would be considered completed. If it was developed into a medium or large city, it would be considered to have exceeded the standard. I have to continue looking for fortuitous encounters. If they are all similar to the Jade Clear Xian spirit level, it shouldn't be a problem to develop into a medium city or above if I find 8 or 9 of them. Jun Changshao had a good idea. But in fact, the Jade Clear Xian spirit level was at the heaven level, and the treasure detector couldn't find it. He accidentally obtained the sheepskin scroll and was lucky to find one. However, he couldn't rely on luck every time. Otherwise, wouldn't he become a protagonist who relied on the protagonist's halo to survive? Nothing is difficult in the world if the human heart is not firm. Jun Changshao said seriously, as long as you work hard, you can grind an iron pestle into a needle. Where there's a will, there's a way. The system said, open the shop and refresh boldly. Maybe you can find something better than the treasure detector. Get lost. The next day, Go Shing woke up early and flew out of the stronghold to start a brand new day of searching for fortuitous encounters. Next, the martial artists of the major plains would face a nightmare. Because the places of fortuitous encounters that were locked in advance and searched with absolute confidence and timing, there was nothing in the end. That's not right. Why is there nothing? Could it be that we guessed wrong and there is no fortuitous encounter here? Patriarch, there is a line of words carved on the wall. Oh? Everyone looked and saw the words written on it, the fortuitous encounter has been taken by me. Everyone, please do not worry. Jun Changshao stays. Jun Changshao. Someone exclaimed, Patriarch of the strongest sect in the history of the falling star continent. Damn it. The Patriarch clenched his fists and said angrily, this place is so far away from the stronghold of the falling star continent. How did that guy get here first? Taking the fortuitous encounter, afraid that others would not know, and deliberately left his name. This was really despicable. In fact, Jun Changshao also had his difficulties. After all, if they did not play with him in the dimensional battlefield, they could only seek death crazily and try to anger the major planes. In the end, in the slaughtering Azura field, they could only sing together. Swish! In a certain valley, Jun Changshao flew out. It was as if the torn space was gradually healing, and the fortuitous encounters that had been sleeping for many years were taken away by him. Even the boxes that contained the treasures did not escape from his hands. As long as one entered a place of fortuitous encounter, even if it was a seemingly ordinary stone, it would be kept in the spatial ring, truly swept clean. Of course. Jun Changshao would also occasionally return to the sect to take charge of the overall situation. At this moment, he had already grasped both the sect's development and the stronghold's development. Patriarch. On this day, Elder Wei hurried to the main peak's hall and said excitedly, the pile of soil you gave me is really magical. The herbs that were planted 3 days ago have matured today. Jun Changshao said in surprise, so fast. The soil that Elder Wei mentioned was used to plant the clear jade spirit. At that time, Jun Changshao felt that it was not simple, so he dug them all up. He did not expect that planting them in the herb field would increase the growth cycle of the herbs. Moreover, the growth rate was terrifying. Because the herbs planted in the soil were used to refine Martial Emperor pills, it would take at least 2 to 3 months to mature in normal soil. Now, it only took 3 days. I've made a fortune. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. Although there was not much soil, it was not suitable for large-scale planting. However, it could increase the growth rate by nearly 20 times. If he planted high-quality herbs in the future, there would be many benefits. Let's go. Let's go and take a look. Jun Changshao hurried to the herb field. However, when he arrived, he found Peppa the wild boar lying on the soil, resting leisurely. A few herbs were squashed by it. Damn you! Jungo's remaining anger rushed up and directly brought out the green dragon crescent blade. However, just as he was about to slash at it, he saw a strange attribute floating up from the soil and merging into Peppa the wild boar's body. An indescribable expression appeared on the latter's face. Patriarch. Elder Wei said solemnly, this soil is helpful to Peppa. Chapter 986. Jun Changshao also realized that Peppa wild boar lying on the soil seemed to have a good effect, so he put down the green dragon crescent blade and dismissed the idea of taking out the true Yang sword and Jade Dragon asks the Heaven's sword. He stood aside and watched. Whoosh! Whoosh! More and more strange attributes appeared. Suddenly, lines appeared on Peppa wild boar's body and spread around, finally outlining a pattern that emitted a holy aura. Elder Wei was surprised. Is it awakening? Many seemingly ordinary dire beasts might have some kind of powerful energy hidden in their bodies. Once the requirements were met or they were disturbed by external forces, they would often awaken. Soil that could accelerate the ripening of medicinal herbs was obviously very suitable for this. Awakening? Jun Changshao was looking forward to it. This little guy was an Earth-type dire beast. With the help of the soil, its control over the Earth-type would definitely be stronger. It would definitely be perfect for reclamation and construction in the future. Swoosh! Peppa Wild Boar suddenly opened its eyes. Its originally sad gaze gradually became sharp. Together with the aura of the pattern, it gave off a sacred and inviolable feeling. Roar! The little guy stood up and roared. The tiniest grains of sand on the ground trembled slightly under the influence of the roar and then floated up. The grains of sand gathered in front of Peppa Wild Boar like clouds and mist, but also like a king's battle armor. Patriarch! Elder Wei was shocked. Peppa might really be awakening. Jun Changxiao's lips curled up into a smile. So hungry, a slightly hoarse voice came from Peppa Wild Boar's mouth. It then stepped out of the soil, put its chin on the ground, and suddenly opened its mouth to swallow a piece of soil. Jun Changxiao and Elder Wei's eyes widened. They could understand that the little guy could talk, but to be hungry to the point of eating soil, that was a bit inconceivable. Still hungry, Peppa Wild Boar opened its mouth again and gnawed on the soil. After a while, the surrounding soil was filled with small pits. Its stomach also became round, and the pattern on its body became brighter. Elder Wei's mouth twitched. Peppa can't be the Earth Devourer, right? Earth-devouring Saint Beast? Jun Changxiao suddenly recalled that Shi Jingxian had once said that there was an earth-devouring Saint Beast in the southern barren state that lived by absorbing the elements of heaven and earth. Later, it was killed by an expert, and its scorching blood spilled over tens of thousands of miles, causing the land to be barren. On the Falling Star continent, the beasts that had the word holy in their names were as powerful as Wu Sheng. Is this guy really that awesome? When Jun Changxiao recalled the time when he accidentally caught the little fellow in Death Valley, he found it hard to believe that his first contracted beast was a holy beast that could rival a martial sage. Burp! Peppa Boar burped and lay back down on the soil. The surrounding sand and dust was still slowly gathering, turning from the initial cloud-like state into a substance that completely enveloped it, forming a large mound. Elder Wei guessed, it should be evolving. How long? I don't know. Jun Changxiao did not say anything. He sat in the small pavilion and waited. He waited for 3 days. Peppa Wild Boar was still covered in dirt. Patriarch. Elder Wei said, it may take time for beasts to awaken. There's no need to sit here and wait. It's my contracted beast. Now that it has awakened and evolved, as its master, I naturally have to protect it at all times, Jun Changxiao said with a solemn expression. These words passed through the layers of dust and reached the ears of Peppa Wild Boar, who seemed to have fallen into a deep slumber. 2 drops of tears fell from its tightly shut eyes. Little guy, you must remember. I will become the strongest man in the world in the future. As my contracted beast, you naturally have to have the ability that others can't. Quickly become stronger and follow your master to fight the 9 heavens, trample the 8 barren lands, and create an immortal legend. After the hot-blooded memories, an indescribable power suddenly erupted and instantly penetrated Peppa Wild Boar's entire body. Become stronger, I want to become stronger. Huff huff huff, a thick aura suddenly erupted from the mound standing in the herb field and spread to the surroundings. This sudden turn of events caused Elder Wei to exclaim in shock, awakened? Jun Changxiao stood with his hands behind his back. His black hair fluttered in the wind and a smile appeared on his face. Peppa Wild Boar. Become stronger. Only then would she be worthy of her handsome, elegant master. Ugh! The system couldn't take it anymore. The mound suddenly erupted with a strong energy. It lasted for a day and a night before it began to subside. At the same time, tiny cracks began to appear. Caw caw caw. The cracks continued to extend outwards like a withered eggshell. Rays of brown light shot out from the cracks, exuding a sense of heaviness that only earth elemental attributes could have. Boom! Suddenly, the mound exploded. Pieces of soil flew everywhere until they came into contact with the ground and turned into grains of sand. Huff huff. The wind howled and the air billowed. Taw! A muscular forelimb walked out from the air. Then, a ferocious beast about 2 to 3 feet tall with a brown body stood in the herb field. This beast's body was similar to a tiger's. It had thick fur all over its body. As for its head, it was more like a wolf's head. There were sharp thorns protruding from the top of its head. From the color, it seemed to be made of solid soil. There was only one word to describe it: handsome. Huff! Air billows appeared in between breaths. This beast exuded a strong earthy aura from head to toe. This soil was of the earth attribute, not the kind of soil that would crumble to dust. Master! It raised its head and puffed out its chest. I want to follow you to battle the 9 heavens, tread the 8 desolations, and create an immortal legend. That's right. This was Paige. It had already changed its appearance. It had already broken away from its pig-like appearance and become a ferocious beast with good looks and power. No, from the aura it exuded, it seemed to be not inferior to Wu Huang's spirit beast. Jun Changshao, who was standing in the gazebo, said, "Follow me to battle the 9 heavens and tread the 8 desolations." It's not just words. You have to have the ability. Understood. Paige turned around and placed its chin on the ground. Then, it suddenly sprinted. Wherever it passed, a pit would appear. Through the slow motion, one could see that this guy opened and closed its mouth at an extremely fast rate. Then, it swallowed all the soil into its stomach. If Li Qingyang saw this, he would definitely be ecstatic. Because if this soil was used to dig the foundation, it would definitely increase the efficiency of the construction. Although the digging speed is much faster than before, it doesn't seem to be anything special. Jun Changshao shook his head. Master. Paige stopped in the distance and said proudly, "My ability is not to dig holes, but, swoosh." It opened its mouth and spat out clumps of soil. Then, it filled the pit that it dug and said, "The soil that I eat will become spiritual soil." Spiritual soil? Jun Changshao was stunned. Elder Wei hurried over and grabbed the soil that filled the pit. He said with joy, "The soil contains spiritual energy. If it's used to plant, it will definitely increase the growth cycle and effect of the herbs." It's that powerful? Jun Changshao walked over and reached out to grab the soil. He spread his spiritual senses and found that every grain of sand was shrouded in weak spiritual energy. It didn't seem to have any effect on the surface, but when gathered into a handful of soil, it was very impressive. Master. Paige said proudly, "I have awakened the bloodline of the Earth Devourer sacred beast. I can easily change the soil." Of course. This is just the most common ability. My true ability is to fight and provide a strong defense for my master. If you don't believe me, you can try it with a punch. Is that so? Jun Changshao shot forward like an arrow, his right fist suddenly blasting out. Bang! Paige endured the violent force. Its eyeballs suddenly bulged and it was instantly sent flying hundreds of meters away. In the end, its eyelids rolled up and it fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth and twitching. Sun Bukong. Save him! Save him! Jun Patriarch's roar came from Medical Peak. Chapter 987. With the help of the soil from the upper realm, Paige accidentally awakened the bloodline of the earth-swallowing sacred beast and evolved in all aspects. The word wild boar would truly become history, because it already had a good appearance. Although it was not as coquettish as the purple lightning young tiger, it was at least much more handsome than before. However, Paige was courting death. He actually took the initiative to let Jun Changshao punch him. His courage was commendable. Gosheng also wanted to see how strong his contract beast was after its evolution. With a single punch, he unleashed 50% of his power and almost turned it back into a pig. On the hospital bed, Paige wept as he licked his wounds. He howled in his heart, "Why is Master so fierce? Baby." At this time, Jun Changshao walked over, gently placed his right hand on its forehead, and laughed, "To be able to survive after taking a punch from me, you are already very amazing." This was the first time Paige saw his master being so gentle to him, and his tears immediately flowed down. "After you recover, go to the medicine field and help Elder Wei and the others improve the soil." Paige's defense was recognized by Jun Changshao. But that was not important. What was important was that after eating the soil, the milk that came out was the best. "Yes." Paige's gaze was firm. "Master." Jun Changshao stood up, stopped at the door of the ward, and said with his back facing it, "On the day that I reach the summit, you must accompany me." Paige's expression suddenly froze, and the small universe in his body was instantly ignited. Then, with a bang, the bandage burst open, and he cried, "Master, I will work hard." Shwa! He jumped off the hospital bed and flew out. Medicine field. Paige was running back and forth, swallowing pieces of soil into his stomach and then quickly spitting it out. Every grain of sand contained spiritual energy. Patriarch Elder Wei, who was sitting in the pagoda, drank a mouthful of tea and said, "Your contract beast is very diligent, it came to improve the soil before its injuries have healed." Jun Changshao said in a serious tone, "Only in this way can it become stronger." The system was speechless. He was clearly using him as a coolie, yet he still had to pretend that he was putting in a lot of effort. A few days later, the herb field below Medical Peak had been renovated. The soil that gathered spirit energy could be used to plant herbs. Not only could it increase their growth cycle, it could also increase the intensity of spirit energy. It was definitely a land of great feng shui. Paige. Jun Changshao pointed at the grassland where the hunger grass was planted and said, "This place also needs to be transformed as soon as possible." "Yes." Paige immediately got to work. Perhaps it was because of the awakening and evolution, but after being busy for a few days, not only did he not feel tired, the more he worked, the more energetic he was. "Wow, Paige has changed. He looks so handsome. I still preferred the chubby Paige from before." When the disciples of the sect saw Paige's drastic change in behavior, they began to discuss among themselves. When Paige heard them talking about her, she proudly performed the disregard her kin footwork. In the past, it used to feel inferior and coward in the medicinal field every day. Now that its form had changed and its strength had increased, it immediately regained its dignity. "Me. Paige. He had been reborn. That day can no longer cover my eyes, that earth can no longer bury me." Boom. Paige, who was full of pride, was suddenly sent flying. When he landed on the ground, he immediately grimaced in pain. After evolving, this fellow also had a temper. However, when Paige saw that the one who had bumped into her was Xiao Longlong, she quickly closed her mouth and pretended that she hadn't seen anything. Then, she continued walking towards the medicinal field. "Stop." Xiao Longlong lightly said, "You bumped into me and you still don't want to apologize." Paige roared in her heart, "You bumped into me. You don't have eyes, so you deserve to be bumped into." The barefoot Xiao Moxian lightly said as she stood on the roof. Xiao Longlong glared at her and then looked at Paige, angrily saying, "You also think so?" "Paige." Xiao Moxian said, "Don't be afraid of him." As Paige thought about how she had awakened the earth-devouring Saint Beast bloodline, she raised her head and puffed out her chest, "Yes." Hoo-hoo. Xiao Longlong was instantly covered in flames and transformed into his second form. A youth poked his head out and coldly said, "I'm going to beat you up. Come." Paige was very manly. Bang! Bang! Ao ao ao. Under the setting sun, the battered and bruised Paige lay in the medicine field, licking her wounds from time to time. Tears streamed down her face as she said, "Master, I'm still too weak." Patriarch. Elder Wei said, "According to calculations and statistics, the modified medicine field can increase the growth period of the herbs by 30%. Not bad, not bad." Jun Goxing smiled. The pills in Alchemy Pavilion all required a continuous supply of herbs. If the soil of the medicine field could accelerate the growth of the herbs, the benefits would certainly be significant. That's right. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the profound jade spirit. "What do you think of this heavenly material?" Elder Wei carefully examined it and said in surprise, "What pure energy! I fear it has already reached the divine grade." When it came to this type of supreme treasure, he had a relatively authoritative judgment. "This item comes from the higher realms," Jun Changshao calmly said. "Higher realms?" Elder Wei's eyes widened. That level absolutely surpasses the divine grade. However, he carefully examined it again and said, "It doesn't seem to be fully mature." "You can tell." Jun Changshao was surprised. The profound jade spirit was indeed not fully mature. Otherwise, it would have been unsealed and announced on the dimensional battlefield. It was not a big problem. After all, there was a heavenly material incubator. As long as enough energy was prepared, it could be quickly matured. However, for now, the profound jade spirit was not useful. Thus, Jun Changshao did not spend any resources to nurture it. He placed it inside first and allowed it to grow 1.5 times faster. "Elder Wei, as the number of disciples increases, the number of herbs we need will only increase. Your medicine hall needs to work harder." N. Hall Masterly Jun Changshao asked again, "How is Xiaomu doing recently?" Li Luoqiu said, "After entering the Perfect Spirit Pagoda, no more information was sent. He should be cultivating in seclusion. Qingyang and the others have already broken through to the Emperor level. Only Xiaomu's cultivation was delayed because of his undercover work. I hope this time he can use the martial arts resources of Taixuan Shengzong to break through." "Has the Demon Emperor's Gate taken any action?" "Not for now." Jun Changshao shook his head. "The powerhouses who enter the battlefield will not stay for long. If the Demon Emperor's Gate does not take the opportunity to do something, they will not have another chance." This guy's mentality was that he wanted to see the world in chaos. Patriarch. Li Luoqiu was silent for a moment. Then she said, "On the coast of southeast Shizhou, someone found many floating bottles. There were letters for help written inside." "Oh?" Jun Changshao listened quietly. This woman would receive information from all over the world every day, but not all of it was reported to him. Since she took the initiative to mention it today, there must be something special. Li Luoqiu said, "The letter for help was written by Master Fan. The content is that he is trapped in East Sea Fishery Province. He hopes that the powerhouses of various sects can come to his rescue." "Master Fan?" Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "It sounds familiar." Chapter 988. The name of Master Fan sounded familiar to Jun Changshao, but he couldn't remember who it was. Li Luoqiu said, "He's the current master forger of the Falling Star continent. The weapons made by him are not only powerful, but also highly collectible." "Master forger?" Jun Changshao suddenly remembered that he often encountered weapons with the word "fan" engraved on them. He suddenly realized. So, it's him. If Master Fan were here, he would have punched him in the chest. After all, so many of his weapons had been broken by this guy. Sometimes, he even had to show off. How could he not remember it? "I thought Master Fan had died a long time ago. I didn't expect him to still be alive," Jun Changshao said. Li Luoqiu said, "According to my investigation, more than 20 years ago, the East Sea Fishery Province sent someone to invite Master Fan and the others away." "Invited away?" Jun Changshao was puzzled. Then why did he ask for help? "You followed him there, but you asked for help in a bottle. That's a bit naughty." Li Luoqiu said, maybe there's more to it than meets the eye. The intelligence of the Drizzle Hull had spread across the 9 provinces, but it couldn't reach the East Sea Fishery Province. Therefore, it was difficult for her to learn anything about Master Fan. Elder Wei said, I heard a little about what happened 20 years ago. It's said that a magical ore was found in the East Sea Fishery Province. Therefore, they came to the continent to invite a master forger, hoping to forge it into weapons. Master Fan was so obsessed with the art of forging that he didn't have a partner for hundreds of years. He must have gone there regardless of anything when he learned about the ore. The first part was what he heard, but the second part was his own speculation. Jun Changshao said, Elder Wei, not all men in the world care about relationships as much as you do. For example. Li Luoqiu added, Patriarch. At first, she didn't understand. The patriarch was young, promising, and powerful. He must be rich in relationships. However, he was even more ascetic than a monk. Later, she heard from the villagers that he fell down when he was young. Elder Wei said, Master Fan's forging skills have reached the peak. Maybe the East Sea Fishery Province forced him to stay and forge weapons because of the ore. The peak? Jun Changshao said, I don't think the weapons he forged are very powerful. Master Fan would have vomited blood if he heard that. Have the other sects received the news? Jun Chang asked with a smile. Got it. Li Luoqiu said, but for now, all the major sects are worried about the battlefield. No one is thinking about rescuing Master Fan in the East Sea Fishery Province. Moreover, many people are doubtful about this matter. After all, the East Sea is extremely far away from the continent. Even if they really are trapped, who would have the heart to go out to sea to save someone who only knows how to forge weapons because of the planar battlefield? Jun Chang laughed. Sigh. Elder Wei sighed. I heard that Master Fan has a lot of friends and has good relationships with all the major sections. Now that he's trapped in the East Sea, no one is willing to help him. How sad. Husband and wife are birds in the same forest. Even in the face of disaster, they fly away separately, not to mention friends who are willing to sacrifice themselves for each other. Jun Changshao stood up and said, Take care of the sect's affairs. I'm going out. To save Master Fan? Elder Wei asked. No. Jun Changshao said, to the realm battlefield. He had only heard of Master Fan. They didn't know each other, so he wouldn't save him. Besides, he was busy. He had to develop his stronghold within a certain time limit. He didn't have time to do good deeds. Patriarch. Old Wei's expression was solemn. Master Fan's understanding of the art of forging is quite strong. If our eternal sect can rescue him and recruit him, there will be no harm in doing so. Li Luoqiu said, I think so too. The two of them wanted to save Master Fan not because they wanted to be chivalrous, but because he had great forging skills. The sect had developed so far, but they still lacked skilled forging talents. Jun Changshao thought for a moment, then said, We can save him, but first we need to confirm whether the news is true. As long as we can confirm whether the handwriting is Master Fan's, then we can prove it, Li Luoqiu said. I'll leave this matter to you, Jun Changshao said. I'll go to the realm battlefield first. With that, he turned and left. Elder Wei. Li Luoqiu said, Master Fan is the most accomplished forging master in history. Patriarch, why don't you care? Elder Wei said, maybe he's suspicious of the letter. Jun Changshao's lack of enthusiasm was due to the forging pavilion in the system. If he wanted to forge any equipment, he only needed the formula and ores. There was no need for a forging master. If he released a side quest to save Master Fan now, he would definitely be interested. The realm battlefield. Jun Changshao took out the treasure-seeking tool and continued to search inside. As he continued searching, the number of light spots on the treasure-seeking tool decreased. This kind of opportunity left behind by the upper realm might not be found even once in a few years. After he came, he found 3 to 5 on average every day. Who could stand this? Patriarch. Li Qingyang said, "The stronghold is now the size of 3 towns. Many places are empty. Do you want to build it? Call Peppa over tomorrow. With its help, it should be fast," Jun Changshao said. In fact, he did not want to continue building on the stronghold. After all, the current scale was enough. However, the epic quest said to build a city. It did not specify whether the area or the shape of a city had to be reached. In order to ensure that he could successfully complete the quest and not be stuck in the realm half a year later, Jun Changshao could only go with the most comprehensive plan. Not only did he have to expand the area, but he also had to build the scale. This project was a bit big. Fortunately, Peppa had evolved and its strength had reached the entry level. Its control of the earth element had also improved. It would only be faster if he used it to build. The next day, Peppa came to the stronghold through the portal. Its 4 limbs stepped on the ground, and its eyes suddenly became hot. As an earth element spirit beast, it could sense that the earth element contained in every grain of sand under its feet was stronger than that of the Starfall continent. It would definitely be good to have a bite. The Earth Devourer Holy Beast's specialty was that it could obtain the heaven and earth element from the soil. Firstly, it could be used to strengthen itself. Secondly, it could be used to strengthen itself. After Peppa evolved, it was busy every day in the herb field. Although it was a bit difficult, after absorbing the soil time after time, its strength had increased significantly. Even Xiao Longlong and Xiao Moxian could not compare. Therefore, although Peppa was weak now, it had the Earth Devourer ability. As long as it had a good environment, its strength would not be slow at all. Roar! In the open space of the stronghold, Peppa raised its head and roared. The soil around it began to roll slightly and then quickly caved in, forming a crisscrossed foundation. Li Qingyang and the others were stunned. This ability to instantly build a foundation with just a roar was simply a natural king of construction. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.